Hey guys, tonight we're going way, way back, like 1,000 years and change back, to the ice-bruised fjords of Scandinavia, where your life is about to begin, violently. You're not just anyone though, you're you, but with broader shoulders, worse hygiene, and the birthright of something both feared and whispered, the berserker. You're not born into luxury, or even comfort. You're born into frost, fire, and a culture where survival is earned by the swing of a blade and the strength of your scream. Now, you probably won't survive this. Let's be clear, life expectancy's laughable. There's a 50-50 chance you don't even make it past age 5, between sickness, starvation, or being mistaken for a changeling by a tipsy uncle with a suspiciously heavy axe. But if you do survive, oh, you're in for something raw. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, what city are you watching from, and what time is it there? I want to know if you're about to fall asleep or if you're already wide-eyed, clutching a pillow like a shield. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first breath comes with cold air, smoke from a peat fire, and blood. Your mother screaming, your father pacing like a caged wolf outside the hut, sharpening a bone-handled seax more out of nerves than need. There are no gentle hospital lights or clean linens here. There's moss and dirt and old gods watching silently through the cracks in the walls. When you cry for the first time, someone mutters that it sounds like a raven's caw, ominous. Someone else, an elder, marks your chest with soot and murmurs something to Odin. A blessing? A warning? Hard to say. They name you after a star that appeared during a solar storm, something unusual, something bright. You won't remember this, of course, but people will. The name spreads around your village like a ripple. Already expectations are forming. If you're lucky, they think you're chosen. If not, they think you're cursed. Either way, you're going to grow up strange. Your earliest memories aren't of toys, but of firelight on iron blades, of your mother humming low tunes while stitching fur with bone needles, and of your father disappearing for weeks at a time, returning bloodied, carrying sacks of loot and guilt in equal measure. You ask him once where he goes. He just laughs and tells you. Somewhere you'll be brave enough to follow one day. That sticks with you more than it should. Around you, the village creaks and groans with life. Longhouse is thick with smoke, dogs that are more wolf than pet, chickens that haven't yet figured out they're domesticated. Everyone smells like salt, sweat, or both. You spend your days barefoot, your feet callousing on pine needles and jagged stone. Every adult seems to carry a knife, a grudge, and a story about how they lost part of an ear, or gained a weird scar from a drunken duel, or an unfortunate encounter with a berserker. Oh yes, the berserkers. Even as a child you know the stories. Warriors who don't just fight, they transform. Not literally into animals, but they might as well. They wear bear skins, foam at the mouth, bite their shields, charge screaming into the front lines. Some say they can't be pierced by blades, others say they die younger than anyone because the gods burn through them faster. You're not sure if they're heroes or monsters, but you do know you stare a little too long when one passes through the village, dragging a cart of silver and limbs behind him. He smells of pine tar and madness. There's a moment, small, quiet, but powerful. You're 5 or 6, squatting beside a frozen stream, trying to crack the ice with a stick. You hear a low growl behind you. You turn, and there's a bear. Not huge, but still big enough to make your heart freeze like the stream. It's watching you, snuffling, its breath fogging in the air. You don't move, neither does it. Then, weirdly, you mimic its breath, slow, heavy exhales. And for some reason it walks away. Later your uncle says it's a sign. You've got the beast in you, he mutters. Could be a gift, could be a curse. By the time you're 8, you're holding a wooden practice sword that still manages to leave bruises, facing off against older boys in the dirt. You're not the biggest, but there's a look in your eyes that makes people uneasy. You don't just fight, you watch, you wait. You hit harder than you should for someone your size, and once, you break a boy's nose in 3 spots with a well-timed elbow. His father comes to complain. Your father just shrugs and says, he fought back. That's all we ask. The village holds feasts under the aurora. Bonfires crackle as people pass horns of mead, sing off-key ballads, and reenact old raids with questionable acting. You sit by the fire and soak it in. Stories of frost giants, sea monsters, and warriors who can speak to ravens. One drunk skald tells you that your fate is already woven. The Norns saw your thread, he slurs, and it glows red. You're not sure what that means, but it sounds important, and possibly lethal. Now here's a quirky truth. Some berserkers reportedly filed their teeth into points. Sharp. Animalistic. Not because it helped in battle, but because it terrified their enemies. Imagine that grin coming at you in the dark. Maybe you'll do that someday, maybe you won't have to. And here's a historical wrinkle scholars still argue over. Were berserkers truly mystic warriors with altered states of consciousness? Or just hopped-up killers fueled by mushrooms, rage, and peer pressure? No one knows for sure. But you're going to find out the hard way eventually. For now, though, you're just a kid in a rough world, marked by destiny but not yet changed by it. You feel the stirrings of something, though, a restlessness, a weight in your chest that pulses when you hear the clash of blades or smell blood on snow. It's not fear, it's curiosity. That's worse. Sleep now, things get louder tomorrow. It starts with your fingers going numb. Not from cold, though that's always there, gnawing at your skin like a hungry dog, but from repetition. You're holding a training spear made from stripped birch, palms blistered, shoulders aching, and your teacher, who may or may not be your cousin, just barked at you to try again, and again, and again. Welcome to your childhood, the endless rhythm of sweat, bruises, blood, and the kind of discipline that doesn't come from affection but from survival. They start you young because they have to. Nobody waits until you find yourself. In the Northlands, either you become strong early or you die early. That's the math. So by the time you're 9, you're already learning to lunge, to feint, to block a blow with your forearm if you don't have a shield handy. And you learn to take a hit because you will take hits. A lot of them. You cry once, early on, and they leave you in the woods overnight to learn courage. You're not sure you ever really forgive them for that, but you also never cry again. You're trained by a man named Ulf, which predictably means wolf. He's an old warrior, limping from a spear to the thigh that never quite healed right, and full of terrible wisdom. Never trust a man who fights too clean, he growls during a winter sparring session, and never ever fall in love with a shield maiden unless you enjoy being stabbed in your sleep. You think he's joking until you see the scar just below his ribs. You laugh nervously. He doesn't. Ulf teaches you more than just technique. He teaches you rhythm. Battle, he insists, is music. Not the kind with flutes and harps, but drums. Guttural, bone-deep, breath-paced. You learn to time your swings with your breathing, to move in a circle like a dance. He tells you to feel the hum of the enemy's pulse before you strike. A berserker doesn't fight with rage, he says one cold morning while adjusting your stance. He becomes the vessel of rage. It flows through you, not from you. At first, you don't get it, but you nod anyway. By 10, you've broken your nose twice, chipped 3 teeth, and nearly drowned during river combat training. You also develop a terrifying stare, one that makes grown men hesitate, even when you're just watching from behind the fire pit. You don't know what they see in your eyes, but you start to understand the power of being watched. It's not about size, it's about presence. The training intensifies as the winters get colder. They wake you before dawn. You run barefoot through snowdrifts, your lungs burning, your legs trembling. They force you to hold your breath under icy water to train your calm. You practice with wooden axes, then real ones dulled at the edge. One time you cut someone anyway, and they thank you for it. Good form, they say, pressing a cloth to their bleeding shoulder. You feel a strange pride and guilt. That's new. One day, Ulf hands you a goat's heart. Eat it, he says. Raw? He nods. You hesitate just for a moment, and that hesitation shames you more than the taste. It's warm and metallic, rubbery between your teeth, and Ulf nods approvingly. Better, he mutters, than being eaten by something worse. You don't ask what that means. You grow taller, broader, your voice cracks and drops like a stone. The village begins to look at you differently. The women whisper. The children follow you around like you're part hero, part cautionary tale. You're not entirely sure where you fit in. You don't feel like a child anymore, but you're not a warrior either. Not yet. That liminal space. It's like living between breaths. Not comfortable, but strangely powerful. And there's something else. At night, sometimes you wake up with your heart pounding. Your hands clenched like you've been fighting in your sleep. You've been dreaming of teeth, of claws, of charging through fire. The dreams are vivid, too real. In one, you're naked in a storm screaming up at the moon. When you tell Ulf, He looks at you sideways. Don't drink anything someone gives you in a carved cup, he says darkly. Not until you're ready. You're not sure if he's warning you about poison or magic, or both. Here's a weird one for you. Some Viking communities believed that certain children were marked by animal spirits at birth. A snake under your crib? Bad luck. A wolf? Destiny. A bear? Something in between. A warning, maybe. You don't remember your own birth, obviously, but your mother once hinted at growling in the walls when she was pregnant. She brushed it off as nerves. You're not so sure. And that's where the scholarly argument creeps in. Were berserkers truly separate from other warriors, or just regular fighters with reputation and flair? Some claim it was just propaganda, psychological warfare in fur. Others believe it was a deeply rooted spiritual path, a warrior cult that used altered states to unleash something else, something not quite human. You train in both possibilities. Weapons are one thing, but they also start to train your mind. Ulf has you sit in the forest alone for hours, listening to trees, watching birds. You'll see more in stillness than in motion, he tells you. You learn to observe movement, breath, silence. You learn to hear before you react. This seems strange at first. Isn't a berserker supposed to be wild, reckless, foam-spitting fury? But Ulf's version of the path isn't just about rage, it's about control, about when to let the animal out. Then, one day, a fight breaks out during a wood-chopping chore. You're not sure what started it, but you're in it instantly. Knees in mud, fists flying, adrenaline roaring. Something clicks inside you. Not just anger, not just instinct. Something bigger, deeper. For a second, it's like you're watching yourself from the outside. You don't remember most of what you do, just that when it ends, 3 boys are on the ground, moaning, and no one will meet your eyes, not even Ulf. You expect punishment. You don't get it. Instead, they start calling you Young Bear. You don't quite know what that means, but it's not a joke. The next phase is coming. You can feel it. The training is about to end, not because you've mastered it, but because it's time to test it. There's a ritual looming on the horizon. They keep mentioning it when they think you're not listening. You'll need a spirit, a name, a death of sorts, but that's not tonight. For now, you sleep with your axe tucked close and your eyes half open. The winter wind howls outside, and the moon hangs low like a watching eye. It starts before dawn, the way most important things do. You're pulled from sleep by the sound of a horn, not the low, echoing kind that signals a raid, but the short, sharp blast that means something ceremonial is happening, something serious. You're not given time to ask questions. Your uncle drags you out of your bed of straw and hides, pushes rough cloth into your hands and barks, "Put it on! Hurry!" Outside, the world is draped in a strange quiet. Snow falls lightly, not enough to muffle the earth, but just enough to coat everything in softness. The village looks like it's holding its breath. You notice the older men are already standing near the longhouse, dressed in their thickest cloaks. Some have smeared dark ash under their eyes. They don't speak when you approach. They only nod. You're not told what this is. Not exactly. But you already know. You've heard whispers about this moment since you were old enough to listen from behind firewood stacks. The ritual. The one they give no name. The one every berserker walks through before they can wear the bearskin and scream their fury in battle. The rite of blood and bark. They lead you into the woods. You count 9 others, all around your age. Some you've fought with, some you've bloodied, some you've laughed beside. No one makes eye contact. Each of you carries a carved wooden bowl filled with herbs, dried pine, and a lump of something that smells like rot. Ulf waits near a clearing ahead, standing beside a tree stripped of bark, its pale skin glowing in the grey light. At his feet is a pile of animal skins, most of them stiff with old blood. You step into the clearing and everything changes. It's like stepping out of time. The forest grows impossibly quiet. No wind, no birdsong, just breath and heartbeat. Ulf raises his hands. "No words," he growls. "No noise. The gods don't need your voice today. They need your sacrifice." Your heartbeat speeds up. You're handed a dull knife. Not sharp enough to cut deep, but sharp enough to draw blood. You're instructed to slice across your own palm and press it to the barkless tree. The blood seeps into the pale wood, and the tree seems to darken as if it's drinking. Your hand burns. You don't pull away. Then comes the next part. Each of you is given a piece of meat, raw, bloody, almost certainly not from any animal you recognize. It's warm. It twitches slightly. No one explains why. You're told to eat it in silence. It tastes like iron, and you nearly gag, but you don't spit it out. You swallow. Everyone does. And then they light the fire. Not a bonfire, something smaller, more deliberate. It's built in a circle of stones, and it crackles with something that smells like strange bark and bitter herbs. The smoke is thick, pungent, and it fills your lungs like steam. You cough at first, then again, then suddenly the world lurches sideways. The ritual has truly begun. Your vision fractures. You feel weightless, then impossibly heavy. Shapes ripple at the edge of your eyes, figures made of antlers and flame, wolves with too many eyes, shadows that whisper your name. You try to speak, but your mouth doesn't work. The world swims, the snow is gone, the sky turns red, and the tree speaks. Okay, not literally, but something deep in your bones tells you it's alive, aware, and watching. You fall to your knees. You hear howling, or maybe it's screaming, or maybe it's you. The others are on the ground too, twitching, growling, some of them clawing at the dirt like animals. One boy, Eric you think, is biting his own arm. You see yourself standing in the firelight, your face smeared in blood and ash, wearing a bear's head like a helmet. You're roaring, but not in rage, in power, in knowing. You feel it. Something breaks open in your chest, something ancient. A great bear looms in front of you, its eyes made of stars, its breath a cold wind. It doesn't speak. It doesn't need to. It presses itself into you. You feel your bones crack, your spine twist, your heart burst into a new rhythm. The beast isn't just a vision, it's you. Or it will be. You black out. You wake in mud and melted snow, your bowl shattered beside you, blood dried in the lines of your palm. Ulf is crouched nearby, chewing on something that smells like sage. You lived, he says, not smiling. Barely. One of the boys didn't. His body is curled up beside the tree, his face frozen in an expression you can't quite read. Fear, ecstasy, regret. You don't ask. No one does. They give you your skin then, a real one, stripped from a bear hunted just for this occasion. It still smells like the animal. You're told to wear it, sleep in it, bleed into it. It's not just a cloak, it's a bond. You're no longer just a boy with a sharp stick. You're a berserker in training, bonded to the spirit of the bear through blood and fire and whatever you inhaled back there. Historically, this kind of ritual isn't confirmed in any scroll or surviving lore code, but accounts passed down through sagas mention it obliquely. Hallucinogenic rites, initiations by madness, sacred animal connections. Scholars debate whether the berserker trance was drug-induced, trauma-triggered, or divine possession. Most likely, all three. And here's something even weirder. Some researchers think the mushroom Amanita muscaria, a red-capped, white-spotted fungi that looks like it belongs in a cartoon, was the source of the berserker rage. It doesn't make you angry per se. It makes you feel invincible, fearless, and detached from your body. Kind of important when you're about to charge into a wall of armed men, screaming and frothing. You spend the next days in silence, recovering. You eat broth, drink water laced with herbs, and stare at the flame in the longhouse like it holds answers. Maybe it does. Your head still spins sometimes, and the bear still visits your dreams, not scary anymore, just present, watching, waiting. The others look different now too, like soldiers returned from war, hollow-eyed, quiet, older. No one talks about what they saw, but you all know you've crossed a threshold. There's no going back. From this moment forward, you'll never again be just a boy from a fjord village. You're something else now, something ancient, something dangerous. The rage is in you. You just haven't let it out yet. You feel her eyes before you see her. The völva, village seeress, spirit sifter, spinner of threads. She's standing alone at the edge of the woods when you return from your final trial, cloaked in rags that flutter like old leaves. Her face is covered in ash, her hair twisted with feathers and bits of bone. She doesn't blink, she doesn't wave, she simply knows you're coming. Everyone in the village avoids her except when they're desperate or drunk. She speaks in riddles and hears voices no one else does. She talks to birds. She once claimed she'd been kissed by a troll, and honestly, based on her smile, no one doubted it. Children dare each other to touch the lintel of her hut and run away before she curses them. But when the völva calls you, you don't run. You step forward, heart hammering. She doesn't speak at first. She just studies you. Her eyes are pale grey, almost white, like stones beneath ice. Finally, she points at the bear pelt draped over your shoulders and whispers, "It fits." Not yet completely, but soon. You don't know whether to bow, thank her, or flee. Instead, you say, "You were waiting." "I've waited for many," she replies. "Most never show. Most don't survive the dreaming. But you..." She reaches out and lightly touches the scar on your palm. "You'll burn brighter than most." Brighter than is wise. She turns and beckons, and you follow. Her hut is smaller than you imagined, yet filled with strange smells and stranger objects. Antlers nailed above the doorway. Stones etched with runes you can't read. A skull, probably human, resting in a nest of dried lavender and moss. The air is thick with incense, bitter and sour. It stings your eyes. The smoke moves unnaturally, as if it knows where it's supposed to go. "Sit," she says, motioning to a wooden stool polished by years of use. You sit. Not because you want to, but because your legs feel weak, like they might fold otherwise. She begins to chant, not in a language you know, but in something older. Something before. Her voice rasps and flows like a river through gravel. The walls of the hut seem to pulse with the rhythm. You feel your limbs tingle, your skin tightens, you start to sweat even though it's freezing outside. "Now," she breathes, "close your eyes. Let the beast within speak. Let the future show itself." You obey. Part of you is terrified. Part of you has been waiting for this moment since your first breath. Darkness, silence, then a flicker. You see a battlefield. Not today's, not from a raid or a nearby skirmish. No, this is older and stranger. Shapes crash into each other with bone-cracking force. You see yourself, maybe older, maybe just more worn, howling as you hurl an axe into a man's chest. Blood spatters your face, but you don't blink. Something is riding inside your skin. You watch yourself break a shield with your bare hands, roar up at a sky filled with red clouds, and then fall upward into a storm made of wings. The scene changes. Now you're standing before a throne of bone. A woman with golden hair and teeth like icicles leans forward, smiling. She whispers your name, only it's not your name anymore. It's something deeper. She calls you Fellborn, Howler, Chosen of the Moor. You try to speak, but your mouth is sewn shut. Then a final image. You're older, limping, your bear pelt burned and frayed. You're looking back over your shoulder at a battlefield strewn with corpses. You're alone. There's silence. And then, slowly, you drop your axe into the mud and walk away. The vision collapses. You gasp awake, drenched in sweat, eyes wild. The völva is watching, unmoved. "You saw," she says. "I don't understand," you whisper. "No," she agrees, "you shouldn't." "Not yet." You try to stand, but your legs are jelly. She hands you a cup. It's warm, bitter, herbal. You drink it without thinking. It tastes like pine needles and regret. "There is power in you," she murmurs, "but power always comes with a price. You will love, you will kill, and you will be remembered. Not always fondly, but thoroughly." You shake your head. "I don't want to be remembered. I just want to be strong," she laughs. It's a dry sound, like parchment tearing. "You don't get to choose. Not anymore. You're marked. You belong to something larger than yourself now." You leave her hut as dawn begins to touch the trees. The frost crackles beneath your boots. Everything feels louder. The caw of a crow, the creak of a branch, the whisper of wind through pine. The world hasn't changed, but you have. From that day forward, the village watches you differently. There's a respect now, yes, but also fear. People don't touch you unless they must. You are other, touched, dreamwalker. You try not to let it bother you, but it does. Some nights, you sit outside your family's longhouse and wonder whether the bear spirit chose you, or just needed someone. Whether you're still fully you, or just a vessel for something older and angrier. Quirky sidebar. Some Viking-age graves contain staffs believed to belong to völvas, often buried with ritual tools, magic mushrooms, and even imported talismans from far-off lands. One theory suggests völvas may have been travellers, not just spiritual guides, but cultural bridges between worlds. You're starting to believe it. The one you met didn't just read the future, she felt like a piece of it. And here's where historians get messy. Some argue berserkers were purely male phenomena, tied to masculine ideals of fury and brute strength. But records and stories also hint at female berserker-like warriors, shield maidens who fought just as ferociously and entered similar trances. Some even say völvas themselves were once berserkers who laid down their blades for runes. You wonder what your Cirrus was in another life. You wonder what you will be in your next one. For now, though, you return to your training with new intensity. You spar harder. You sleep less. The dreams come more often, sometimes good, mostly strange. You start muttering to yourself during fights. You don't realize it at first, just low growls, but others notice. One day, during practice, you disarm your partner with such fury that Ulf has to separate you. You weren't trying to kill him, but something in you was. Control, Ulf snaps. You don't lose to the rage. You borrow it. One day, you'll need it, but not now. You nod, but something deep in your gut doesn't fully agree. The rage is growing. The bear stirs more often now. You feel its breath in your ears, its claws around your ribs. The völva's words echo louder each night. Brighter than is wise. You wonder what that brightness will cost. You don't remember the exact moment it happens. Not the way a moment should feel, like a blade-piercing skin or the crack of thunder over the mountains. No, when the bear-skin awakening truly comes, it's quieter, deeper, not a bang, but a shift. A tide turning within you that refuses to be undone. It starts during a raid, your first real one. You're 15, maybe 16, depending on which lunar calendar you trust. Old enough to fight, young enough to be considered expendable. Your warband consists of older men, seasoned raiders, and a few others like you, young blood, fast but still untested. The plan is simple. A coastal village just past the Pine Sea, rich with grain and poorly defended. A warm-up job. No heroes needed. You sail under a sky the colour of rust. The wind stinks of salt and old fish, and the longship cuts the waves like a bone knife. The men row in silence. Ulf is at the helm, eyes fixed forward, jaw tight. You try to ignore your nausea, your nerves, the churning of something both fearsome and electric deep in your belly. The shore rises like a beast from the sea, low grassy hills and a thin smattering of huts. You see people running, tiny figures fleeing inland. The first scream cuts through the wind, and your heart races. Not with fear, not anymore, but with something else. The bear inside you opens one eye, and then you're in the surf, wading toward land, axe in hand, soaked to the waist. No time to think, just charge, swing, duck, roar. The first man you face is older, desperate, holding a woodcutter's axe and no shield. He lunges at you. You sidestep without effort and drive your weapon into his thigh. He drops, screams. You don't look back. The next one gets in close. You taste blood, your own probably, and hear nothing but the thumping in your chest. You bite your shield and feel your body shift. You don't remember moving. You just remember standing over him afterward, your hands shaking, his blood on your neck and your axe buried somewhere behind you. Then the red takes over. You've heard of the red. The old berserkers speak of it in hushed tones. Not anger, not even rage, just red. The world turns a single colour and sound falls away. It's not silence, it's emptiness. Everything becomes still but violent. Time bends. Your limbs move like they're being pulled by something outside of you. You swing harder than you should. You stop feeling pain. Your mouth foams without trying. This is not battle. This is becoming. You wake up on your knees. The village is burning. A man you don't recognize is slumped beside you, half his face missing. You look down and realize your hands are raw, one fingernail gone, your mouth bleeding. Your tunic is torn. Your bear pelt is soaked through, not with seawater, but blood, thick and sticky, and you don't know whose. You stand. Ulf is watching from a distance, his face unreadable. He nods, just once, and then turns away. The others avoid your gaze, not out of pity, out of caution. At night, back on the ship, you sit at the bow and stare into the dark. The waves slap the hull with a rhythm that sounds eerily like the heartbeat you felt in the red. A low thudding reminder that something's still inside you, that you're not alone in there anymore. Quirky fact time. Some berserkers were said to chew the edges of their shields before battle, not metaphorically, literally chew them. Whether it was a sign of possession, madness, or just dramatic flair, no one really knows. You didn't mean to bite yours, you just did. The wood still tastes like blood and splinters. Historically, this moment, the first time a berserker loses himself, is rarely documented. We have the sagas, yes, but they usually focus on the aftermath, not the transition. Scholars can't agree whether Berserker Gang was a conditioned trance, a psychological break, or a pharmacological event. All you know is something snapped, and it didn't break you, it revealed you. When you return to your village, there is no feast. The raid was small, profitable, yes, but not glorious. Still, people notice how you walk now. Heavier, slower, like you're dragging a chain no one else can see. The children don't play near you anymore. Dogs growl when you pass. Even your mother watches you with a different kind of silence. Not fear, not exactly, but unease. You try to sleep. You can't. The dreams are worse now. They're not just visions. They're echoes. You hear the men you killed calling your name. Not accusing, just present. You see the red before you sleep and feel the bear pacing just beneath your skin. One night, you wake screaming. You find your fingernails torn again, your tongue bitten nearly in half. Your bed is soaked. You try to pray to Odin, but the words won't come out. Instead, you go outside and kneel in the snow. It's not forgiveness you want, it's clarity. A week later, Ulf visits you. He brings a jar of pitch, a bottle of mead, and a question. Do you want to learn to control it? You don't answer with words, you just nod. The next few weeks are different. Less combat, more ritual. Ulf has you run long distances barefoot through snow, fast until you hallucinate, then meditate under freezing waterfalls. You scream into caves until your throat is raw, practice fighting while blindfolded, and learn to slow your heart with breath alone. Rage isn't power, Ulf growls one day, until it has edges. Slowly the bear learns to sleep when called. Not always, but sometimes. Sometimes is better than never. Here's a fringe theory for you. Some anthropologists argue berserker rage wasn't just about combat, it was performance. Terror as a weapon. Make your enemies believe you're possessed, and they might break before you even reach them. You wonder if the red makes you terrifying, or just easy to mythologize. You start to train others, younger boys, wide-eyed and shaking. You're only a few years older than them, but they treat you like a legend already. One of them asks, "Does it feel good?" You shake your head. It feels necessary. The bear is part of you now, not just a pelt on your shoulders or a growl in your chest. It's something woven into your breath, your blood, your being. You're no longer a boy trying to become a warrior. You're a berserker learning how to stay human. The village is drunk, again, and not the mellow, half-asleep kind of drunk where people drift off beside the fire humming old tunes. No, this is feast drunk. The kind that smells like roast boar, fermented honey, and at least 2 bad decisions already underway before sundown. You've seen 3 people wrestle, 2 cry, and 1 try to kiss a goat. Standard festivities. Tonight is about victory. A real one this time. Your warband returned from a raid on a much larger settlement, deep inland. A fortified hall, rich with silver, weapons and stories. The skalds will be half making up for generations. You led the charge. Not officially, you're still young enough for some of the older men to grumble about your lack of beard. But when the gates broke and the enemy surged out, it was your voice that called the push. Your blade that struck first. Your rage that scattered the front line like dry leaves. So yes, you're allowed to drink tonight. You sit beside the fire pit, your bear cloak draped around your shoulders like a second skin, the inside still damp with dried sweat and battle stink. Someone hands you a horn of mead so strong it makes your teeth hum. You drink it in one go. A cheer erupts from the table behind you. Someone starts a song, off-key of course, and the others join in, banging mugs and spoons against the wooden benches. And for a moment you feel it. Not rage, not pride, just belonging. That doesn't happen often anymore. Since the red took hold of you, since the völva's prophecy and the day the bear inside first stirred, people keep their distance. It's subtle. Just enough space around you at meals, just enough hesitation when they speak your name. You're not feared like a beast in the dark, not exactly, but you are known, in a way most people would rather not get too close to. Except tonight. Tonight they want to bask in your fury. They raise their mugs to it. You're not just a berserker, you're their berserker. One of them. You earned the right to laugh. So you do. You even get a seat at the war table. The Jarl waves you over. A massive man with a braided beard and a laugh like a falling boulder. He's half drunk already and bragging about how he crushed a man with one hand during the raid. He didn't. You were there. He got knocked over by a door, but no one's correcting him now. He claps your shoulder hard enough to sting and grins through mead-sticky lips. You're a beast, boy. No doubt about it. You tore through that gate like a damn thunder god. You shrug, trying not to show the flush in your face. The others held the line. Bah! The others watched you break it. He leans in close, lowering his voice. You keep this up. You'll be leading raids before long. Maybe more than that. His eyes flick toward the far side of the hall. Especially if you impress the right people. You follow his gaze. She's sitting near the end of the long table, surrounded by older women, laughing quietly, a silver band braided through her hair. The Jarl's daughter. You've seen her before, riding horses at the edge of the forest, practicing archery alone near the cliffs. Never speaking to you, never needing to, until now. She glances your way, smiles. You look away too fast, but later, after the feast, after the last song has been sung and half the village is asleep or unconscious, you find yourself sitting near the coals, still warm, watching the smoke twist into the stars. She walks over, quiet, unannounced, like a fox slipping between trees. You didn't roar, she says. You blink. What? During the battle. Berserkers always roar. You didn't. You were quiet. Like you were listening to something I couldn't hear. You glance at her, unsure what to say. She isn't mocking you. Her tone is thoughtful, almost curious. I don't always feel like roaring, you say at last. Sometimes it just burns under the skin. She nods. That's worse. She sits beside you, and you talk. Not much. Just fragments. Things about the raid, about the training, about dreams you don't usually admit out loud. She listens, not with the stiff posture of a chieftain's daughter tolerating a lower rank, but with full attention, like she sees the bear and doesn't flinch. Later that night, as you walk her back toward her longhouse, she turns and says, "Do you ever wish you weren't born with it?" The rage. You stop. "No," you answer, "but I do wish it came with instructions." She laughs, soft, warm. "Maybe I'll help you write some." Back in your bed, still half drunk, half awake, you lie staring at the ceiling beams and wonder if this is what it feels like to be seen without being feared. It's unfamiliar, and it scares you more than the red ever did. Quirky detail for tonight. Some Viking warbands were known to compose battle songs personalized to specific warriors, using inside jokes or strange epithets to build morale. One berserker was supposedly nicknamed Goat Hugger because he once mistook a goat for an enemy in battle. If you had a battle song, it'd probably mention your silence more than your fury. The quiet before the teeth. As for the historical debate, not all berserkers were loners. Some travelled in tightly bonded warbands, sharing not just battle but ritual, vision, and even symbolic family ties. Others became outcasts, too volatile to be trusted. You're hovering in the in-between right now. Respected, but dangerous. Trusted, but only just. The next few weeks pass in a blur. You train harder, sharper, spar more. You start experimenting with new weapons, dual axes, heavy warhammers, even throwing spears. Ulf watches without interfering, though once he mutters, "Don't fall in love with tricks." They break faster than bones. You spend more time with her too, the Jarl's daughter. She never says your name when others are around, but she touches your arm when no one's looking. She walks with you at twilight. She even throws a knife at a thief's foot once just to make you laugh. You try not to think about what happens if the Jarl finds out, but the bear in you already knows. Anything worth holding will have to be fought for, maybe even bled for. One night you and Ulf sit by the fire alone. He passes you a horn of mead and says, "You've tasted what it is. The rage. Now you need to learn what to do when it comes when you don't want it." You stare into the flame. "And what if I can't stop it?" He shrugs. "Then you'll find out what else it can destroy." The fire cracks. The bear stirs in your chest, not waking, just rolling over in its sleep. You've made it through the first battle, the first bloodlust, the first taste of human warmth. Now comes the real test. Surviving yourself. You don't talk about the raid that goes wrong. Not because it's the worst thing you've ever done, though it might be, but because it cracks something in you that never quite heals. The others move on. They laugh about it, make up new stories to replace the shame. But you remember every second. The silence before it started, the screaming after, and that one frozen heartbeat in the middle, where you saw yourself not as a warrior or a beast, but as a boy pretending to be both. It begins with an invitation. A coastal settlement a few days' sail south has insulted your Jarl, or maybe they underpaid tribute, or insulted someone's goat. The reason doesn't matter. The Jarl wants a show of strength, and your warband is eager, too eager. Fresh from victory, drunk on reputation, you're itching for another fight. You don't ask questions. You should have. You sail out with 20 men, 2 longships, and the arrogance of people who've forgotten fear. The sea is calm. Spirits are high. The sun glints off helmets and freshly oiled weapons. Someone sings a song about your last battle. They've started calling you Ghost Eyes now because of the way you go distant right before the rage hits. You don't know whether to be flattered or disturbed. Landfall comes under fog. Not a good sign. Ulf mutters a curse and squints at the shore. Too quiet, he says. No birds. But no one listens, including you. The village is there, just beyond the rocks. Low, smoky, barely fortified. Looks easy. Almost too easy. You disembark in silence. Half the men flank. The other half follow you straight up the centre path. Weapons low, nerves high. Every breath tastes like wet ash. A single dog barks in the distance, and then the trap springs. Not from the front, but the sides. Hidden trenches packed with spears, collapsing rooftops hiding archers. You see the first man drop with an arrow through his throat. The second takes a spear in the gut. The third screams from a pit he's fallen into, spikes tearing through his leg. And then the fire comes. Pitch-soaked torches hurled from behind the walls. The fog lights up in orange halos. Smoke thickens the air, stinging your eyes. You roar, more from reflex than rage, and charge, trying to rally the others. Some follow, some freeze, most are already falling. The rage comes, but it comes wrong. There's no rhythm to it this time. No ritual, no rise. Just panic disguised as fury. You swing wildly, your blade biting into a man's chest, then into someone else's shield, then into dirt. You can't feel the red. You can't find the bear. You're alone, exposed, human. You take an arrow to the shoulder and keep moving. You don't remember how you reach the main hall. Just that it's already burning, and there's a woman inside. An old woman, huddled beside a crate of something. She sees you, doesn't scream, doesn't move, just watches as you raise your weapon. And then you stop, because you see her. Not as a target, not as the enemy, just a woman. Old, fragile, waiting. Your arms tremble. The bear doesn't come. You lower the axe. She closes her eyes, and then a scream behind you. Your name half spoken, half sobbed. You turn just in time to see Eric, one of the younger fighters, barely more than a boy, full with a blade through his neck. His blood hits your face. Something in you snaps, but it's not the red. It's guilt. You gather what few survivors remain, 7 of you now, ragged, limping, smeared with soot and disbelief, and retreat to the shore. The boats are damaged but float. Barely. You sail home with smoke behind you and silence in your hearts. Back in the village, there's no feast, no songs. The Jarl scowls when he sees your wounds. What happened? He demands. You give him the facts, not the feelings. He doesn't ask again. But Ulf pulls you aside that night, his face grim. You lost control, he says. You shake your head. No, I couldn't find it. That's worse, he mutters. He walks away without explaining. Over the next days, the others spread stories. Some say the villagers had dark magic. Some say the gods were angry. Others blame poor leadership. No one blames you. Not aloud. But the looks linger. The silence stretches. The Jarl's daughter finds you near the cliff one morning staring at the sea. She doesn't say anything at first. Just stands beside you. Then quietly, "Did you spare someone?" You nod. "She see you?" "She saw through me." She touches your arm, light as a breath. That's not weakness. It felt like it. She's probably still alive. Maybe she shouldn't be. That silences both of you. Here's a strange truth. Some sagas include moments where berserkers freeze mid-battle. It's rare, but it's there. One tale tells of a warrior who dropped his weapon at the height of battle after hearing a child's cry. Another paused mid-kill and walked into the sea. Scholars argue over what it means, divine interference, guilt, or simply the limits of madness. but you know what it felt like. Clarity. That awful, painful clarity that sometimes slips in through the cracks of rage. And here's the weird part. The bear hasn't spoken since. It hasn't visited your dreams. You still feel the strength, the hunger when you train, but the presence, the spirit of it, gone, like it's waiting, or sulking, or disappointed. You begin training again, not because you want to, but because not training feels worse. You don't talk about the old woman, you don't talk about Eric, but at night you hear the arrow hit him again. You wake up with your hands clenched and your shoulders burning. Ulf doesn't push. He just trains with you in silence. But one night by the fire, he finally says, "Battle doesn't reveal who you are. It distorts it. The moment after, that's when you see the truth." "And what if you don't like it?" He shrugs. "Then you fight again. Until you do, or until it kills you." You nod. That makes sense. Sort of. The Jarl holds another raid council weeks later. You're invited, but you don't speak. They're planning something bigger. Ships, slaves, and silver. You're expected to join. You're not sure if you want to, but you will. Because this life doesn't pause. Doesn't wait for healing or answers. It just moves. One battle into another. One loss layered over the last. You carry it all with you now. Every scream, every hesitation, every drop of blood you spilled or refused to. The bear is quiet, the rage uncertain, but you are still here, and that somehow feels like a victory. Exile isn't dramatic, not like in the songs. There's no weeping at the edge of the fjord, no storm to carry you off, no solemn speeches or dramatic farewells. It's quieter than that, more bitter, more cold. It starts with a council, men with heavy eyes and heavier debts, sitting in a circle around the Jarl. You stand in the middle, helmet off, head down. Everyone knows what's coming. Some probably decided it days ago. They don't call it exile, of course. They call it releasing you from duty. They say it's time for you to go into the wild, to find your centre. Words scraped off a polished bone. You don't argue, you don't speak. What would be the point? You're not being punished. You're being avoided. You're dangerous. Not because of what you did, because of what you didn't do. A berserker who hesitates, who doesn't rage when the battle calls, that's an infection waiting to spread. It's not the blood you spilled. They can live with that. It's the blood you spared. Even Ulf doesn't fight it. He doesn't look away either. He meets your eyes after the sentence is passed and nods once, the kind of nod that says this is necessary even if it isn't fair. So you gather what you need, your bear pelt, your blades, a satchel of dried meat and bitter herbs. Your mother doesn't say goodbye. Your father isn't even there. The Jarl's daughter leaves a bundle on your path at dawn. Inside is a cloak stitched with her crest, and a note that just says, "Don't come back the same. You don't cry. You've done enough of that in dreams." You head north, into the Frostlands. No roads, no destination, just snow, wind, and silence thick enough to feel like judgment. The first few days are almost a relief. The physical pain, the cold that seeps into your teeth. It's easier than the weight of being watched, measured, feared. You hunt small game, sleep under dead trees, wrap yourself in your bear pelt like it's a memory of warmth. The rage doesn't visit, the bear doesn't dream. You're alone. And then you're really alone. Because one night the snow turns mean. It howls, it cuts, it erases everything. You try to make shelter, but the wind laughs at your hands. Your fire dies within minutes. The trees groan under the weight of ice. You can't see more than a few feet. And somewhere in the white something is moving. You think it's a wolf at first, then maybe a shadow, then maybe your own breath made monstrous by fear. But it's not. It's real. You collapse sometime after dusk, half frozen, hallucinating, your limbs stiff, your lips cracked and bleeding. You think this is how you'll die. Face down in snow, alone, barely worth a saga footnote. You want to be angry, but the anger won't come. And then you hear it. Not words, not a voice, just breathing. Steady, heavy, like something asleep nearby. Huge, ancient. You roll onto your back. Snowflakes land in your eyes, but you don't blink. You just stare into the trees, heart thudding so slow you're surprised it's still moving at all. A shape steps forward. Tall, furred, not quite bear, not quite man. Its eyes glow, dimly, like coals. Not malicious, not kind, just watching. You try to reach for your blade. You can't. Your arm won't move. You can't even lift your head. You lie there, helpless, half mad, waiting for teeth. But instead, it kneels. The creature, whatever it is, presses a clawed hand to your chest. It's warm. That's the first surprise. The second, the warmth spreads. Not like fire, but like life. Like a hearth after days in the cold. You gasp. The thing doesn't speak, it just breathes with you. And then slowly it dissolves into mist. You wake up hours later in a hollow beneath a fallen tree. There's no sign of footprints, no blood, no beast. But you're warm. You're alive. And your bare pelt is heavier now somehow, like it's soaked in memory. You walk for days after that. North still. You start hearing the bear again, not loudly, not with rage, but with rhythm. It speaks in pulse, in breath, in the way your steps start to match your heartbeat. You find food more easily, you kill more cleanly. You no longer dream of battle, you dream of hunting, and it feels good. For a time. Then you find the cairn. It's tucked in a frozen valley surrounded by antlers and bones. Someone, or something, built it. You approach slowly. No signs of struggle, no animals. Just a stone pile, with symbols carved into it you can't read but somehow understand. They mean, here lies a son of rage. You sit beside it for a long time. You don't know why. Maybe it's another berserker. Maybe it's what your grave would have been if the beast hadn't come to you. Or maybe it will be still. That night you build a fire beside the cairn. You burn your tunic. You smear ash on your face. And for the first time in months you howl. Well, it's not rage, it's ritual. You speak to the forest. You offer meat to the snow. You bite your shield and feel your teeth ache in the cold. You press your hand to the ground and say nothing. The bear's with you now, not as a passenger, but as a partner. Strange historical aside. In some Nordic traditions, exile wasn't purely punishment. It was transformation. A time to go into the wilderness and recalibrate the self. Some returned wiser. Others never came back at all. The ones who did often came back, changed, with new gods, new rituals, new voices in their heads. The next morning your reflection in the frozen lake is unfamiliar. You look older, not just in the face, but in the eyes. They don't shine the same. They glow like coal. The journey back isn't quick. You don't rush it. The snow thins, the winds calm. You follow rivers, not roads. And when you pass through other villages, people watch from behind doorways. Some recognize the bear cloak. Others see something deeper. A boy once throws a stone at you and runs. You don't chase him. You're not here for that. You're here to remember who you were and to decide who you're going to be. By the time you see your home fjord again, your pelt is darker, your eyes are quieter, and the bear walks with you. Snow crunches under your boots as you descend from the northern hills, each step feeling more deliberate than the last. You're thinner now, lean, hardened, worn in the way only solitude can shape a person. Weeks in the Frostlands carved something out of you, but they left something else behind too. Not just survival, understanding. You don't feel like a boy pretending to be a monster anymore. You feel like a man who knows why the monster exists, and what it's for. You haven't spoken aloud in days. Words feel clumsy. You think in breath, in tracks in the snow, in the twitch of prey before a kill. When you finally reach the tree line and look down into the valley below, the wind shifts, and a howl cuts across the forest floor. Not a bear, not a man, something else. Your hand goes instinctively to the axe at your side. You wait. The howl comes again, closer this time, lower, measured, a challenge. You crouch, scanning the tree line, your muscles coiled, and then, just between the pines, two glowing eyes appear. Wolf. No, not just a wolf. Huge, scarred, half its fur white with age or ash. It stands still as stone, watching you from a dozen paces away, steam curling from its nostrils in long ribbons. You don't run, you don't raise your weapon, you just breathe. You've learned how to listen. The creature tilts its head, then it begins to circle, slow, cautious, deliberate. You mirror its movements, matching step for step. Not hunter and prey, not beast and man, just two predators sizing each other up. Then, unexpectedly, it lowers its head, not in submission, in recognition, and walks away. You don't follow. You let it vanish into the trees, the silence swallowing its tracks. But the encounter leaves something behind. Not fear, not awe, a feeling that you've just passed a test. You make camp that night beneath an overhang of rock staring up at the frost-starred sky. The coals flicker low. You reach into your satchel and pull out a strip of salted venison. As you chew, you think of the stories, the old ones, whispered by firelight, of berserkers who weren't alone in their rage, who had companions, spirits, totems. Some bore the bear, others the stag, the raven, the wild boar. But a few, a rare few, they were marked by wolves, solitary, calculating, survivors, not mad, not loud, but lethal. The next morning you spot tracks, massive paw prints, fresh. You follow them, not out of curiosity but instinct. They loop through a grove of twisted birch trees and end at a circle of disturbed snow. Something big fought here, recently. Blood spatters the tree bark, the scent still lingers. You kneel, not to pray, to feel. You press your fingers to the frozen ground and exhale. The vision comes without warning. You see the wolf again, but not alone. It's flanked by others, smaller, leaner, a pack. They're chasing something through a narrow gorge. You see flashes of white fur, a blur of hooves. A stag, maybe. The scene ripples and shifts. Then you see yourself, not hunting, but being hunted, cornered, snarling, alone. And then the pack turns away, not out of mercy, but disinterest. You're not prey, you're just not worth the kill yet. You snap out of it, sweating. Your fingers have gone numb. You pull them back, flexing stiffly, and mutter, "I'm not done yet." As you head east, the forest begins to change. The trees thin. The ground rises, sharper and rockier. You find signs of life again. A broken snare trap, boot prints, an arrow shaft buried deep in a fallen log. People are near, or were. You move quietly, just in case. At dusk you stumble upon smoke. It curls above the treetops, thin and steady, controlled. Someone's fire, not wildfire. You pause, every nerve alert, then step carefully toward it. Your feet make no sound now. You're barely there at all. You reach a clearing, a camp, 3 men, 1 fire and a cage. Inside it, a boy, maybe 12, dirty, shivering, face bruised, bound at the wrists. One of the men is skinning a rabbit. Another is laughing, tossing bones into the fire. The third, tall, cruel-faced, is carving runes into the boy's shoulder with a dull blade. You move before you realize you've decided. The first man doesn't even hear you. You crush his windpipe with your forearm before he can scream. The second draws steel, but it's too late. Your axe is already in his gut. He drops like a sack of fish. The third lunges at you, blade raised, roaring. You let the bear out just a little. The sound that leaves your mouth isn't human. He stumbles. You bury your axe in his collarbone and drive him to the ground. Silence returns in one long breath. The boy stares at you with wide, wet eyes. You crouch, break the cage latch with your blade, cut his bindings. He stares. "Who are you?" he asks, voice cracking. You shrug. "Someone passing through?" He nods, doesn't ask again. You give him food, wrap him in your spare cloak. He falls asleep quickly. You sit beside the fire, thinking. You didn't rage. You didn't lose yourself. You chose. That feels different. Quirky fringe fact. There's a rare saga, half-preserved and mostly ignored, that tells of a berserker who travelled alone for years and became known not for his fury but for his silence. It's said he once killed 6 men without uttering a word and that wolves followed him through the trees. He's referred to as Fenrir's brother, brother of Fenrir. Some thought it meant cursed. Others, chosen. You wonder if his story ended like yours. You don't keep the boy long. By morning you've found a passing caravan headed south, and you leave him in their care. You don't explain who you are, you don't wait for thanks, but he watches you as you walk away, like he knows, and maybe he does. You continue east. The snow begins to melt. Not all the way, but enough to show patches of green and brown beneath the drifts. Your muscles ache less now. Your eyes don't twitch at every shadow. The bear walks beside you. The wolf, somewhere just beyond the trees. They don't fight, they watch. And you begin to wonder if the rage wasn't broken after all. Maybe it was just waiting for permission. By the time you return, no one recognizes you. You stand at the edge of your village just before dusk, cloak pulled low over your brow, your bare pelt hanging like a second shadow. You don't announce yourself. You simply arrive. A tall, quiet figure framed by the rising smoke of hearth fires. your boots dusted with frost and road grit, your beard longer, streaked with wind and time. People glance your way and then quickly look back down. Some do double takes. A few older ones stop moving entirely, their eyes going wide, mouths slightly open. One child drops a bundle of sticks and stares like they've seen a ghost. Maybe they have. You step into the square without speaking. No fanfare, no warning. You're not sure what you expected. A welcome? A reckoning? A question? Instead, Ulf appears. He walks toward you with a limp that's gotten worse since you left. He's still wearing that mangy old wolfskin and smells like pine tar and regret. For a moment, you think he's going to say something meaningful. Instead, he snorts, squints up at you and grunts. You stink worse than before. You nod. That's on purpose. He studies your face. You changed. You didn't. Nope. Silence stretches. You both stand there in the square as villagers peek from doorways, pretend to sweep, hover on thresholds. Then Ulf jerks his head toward the longhouse. Come on. You'll want food before they start whispering louder. Inside the longhouse, it's warm, smoky, familiar. Meat hangs from hooks, bread bakes on the stones, and the old fire pit glows with orange coals. Ulf sets down 2 bowls of stew and 2 cups of mead. He doesn't ask where you've been, doesn't need to. He just says, word is you saved a child out in the frostlands. You shrug. He needed saving. Most wouldn't have. You sip the mead. Most aren't me. He grins, that half-wolf smile. No, they're not. Word spreads fast, of course. By the next morning everyone knows. The boy, the wolves, the exile, the return. Some believe the story, some don't. Some claim you've come back with powers you didn't leave with, that your eyes glow in moonlight, that your breath turns to frost even near fire. One particularly old man insists you turned into a wolf during a snowstorm and fought a spirit to the death. You let the rumours run. It's easier than explaining the truth, that you're not fully the same man they banished, but you're not fully not either. The Jarl summons you 3 days after your return. You're brought to the Great Hall early, before the sun rises. It's still empty, but for a few guards and the firekeeper. You walk past the carved wooden pillars, past the stone throne draped in furs, and kneel only when the Jarl gestures. He looks at you like he's trying to decide if you're still dangerous or useful. You've been quiet since you got back, he says. I've been watching. Any rage left in you? You meet his gaze. Enough. But I've learned to aim it. He leans forward slightly, intrigued. That's new. You don't blink. So am I. He nods slowly. There's something coming. A bigger raid. A real one. Far south. A city. Not a village. Gold. Horses. Slaves. You say nothing. We'll need men who don't fear death. Still nothing. Especially ones who know what it's like to live with monsters. You smile without warmth. Then you'll need me. And just like that, you're back in. No ceremony, no apologies. You're added to the warband roster like you never left, though your name is now followed by something new. Iskalda. Ice cold. The ones who fear you say it like an insult. The ones who follow say it like a blessing. You don't care either way. You start training again. Not for yourself, but them. The younger warriors, the next batch of berserker blood. Some are cocky. You break that quickly. Others are frightened. You fix that more gently. You tell them the truth. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be able to act despite the fear. One boy, pale and wide-eyed, asks you, "What if I lose control?" You stare him dead in the eyes. "Then I'll end you before you kill someone who didn't deserve it." He nods. Doesn't show up late again. And then, one night, as the first hints of spring touch the trees, you feel it. The bear stirs, not violently, not with the sudden jolt of battle, but with a slow breath, a soft growl. It hasn't left. It's just been waiting, like the wolf in the trees, like you. That same night you visit the cliffs. She's there, of course. The Jarl's daughter, cloaked against the wind, bow slung over her shoulder. She hears your footsteps and doesn't turn. "I thought you might be dead." "I was." She turns now, eyes sharp. "And now?" You hesitate. "Now I'm colder." She steps close, searching your face. "You still dream?" You nod. "Only when it's quiet." She touches your arm. "You're quieter now." "So are you." Neither of you speaks for a long while. Then she says, "If you leave again, take me with you." You look at her, startled. She doesn't flinch. I'm not afraid of the rage. You should be. No, she says, soft but sure. I should be afraid of you without it. You both laugh, that old, hollow, necessary laugh, the kind that admits the world's ugly but doesn't give it the final word. And for a moment the silence between you feels warmer than fire. History time. In Viking lore, exile didn't strip you of your identity forever. If you returned stronger, wiser, or just alive, your name could be restored. But the community rarely forgot. You could earn your place back, but you'd never be unmarked. That mark might become your legend, or your leash. You feel the mark on you now, not a scar, not a title, a presence, like a weight across your shoulders. The rage didn't vanish, it matured. Now it walks beside you, a companion, a reminder, not an addiction, but a tool. You sleep better, not perfectly, not every night, but the dreams are manageable, and the bear no longer roars, it listens. Because you do, and the village, they don't embrace you, not fully, but they respect you. That's enough, for now. The sky turns violet as your warband assembles at the water's edge, longships creaking against the tide, sails furled like sleeping wings. The air smells of pine smoke, damp wool, and anticipation. You stand a few paces from the others, leaning against your shield, watching their movements, how they fumble with their packs, joke too loudly, glance over their shoulders as if trying to shake off the fear. You remember when you used to do that too. Now your stillness unnerves them more than your fury ever did. Ulf passes by and slaps the hull of the boat as he walks. Time to earn another song, Iskaldr, he mutters. You raise a brow. If I'm lucky, they'll sing it after I'm dead. He smirks. Only if you stay dead this time. The Jarl is sending 3 ships south. Not to some easy-to-loot village, but to a fortified settlement tucked along the river routes of the Slavs, rich with grain, horses, and iron. Word is they've been trading with eastern merchants and have walls, real ones, stone and timber, and guards who aren't terrified fishermen with rusted blades. This is no warm-up. This is a campaign. And the warband? It's ready, or so they say. You stand at the bow of the lead ship as the tide pulls you forward, cloak snapping in the wind, bear pelt fluttering like wings behind you. The younger warriors, many of whom you've trained yourself, watch you closely. You feel their gazes when they think you're not looking. Half reverence, half calculation. They want to see what you'll become when blood hits the deck. Will the beast rise? Will you foam at the mouth and bite steel again? Or will the cold hold? Even you don't know. The voyage takes days. You move through inlets and narrow channels, ducking past enemy shores, rowing in silence through thick morning fog. Your arms ache. Your back screams, but your mind stays sharp. You study the trees, count the birds, watch the clouds. You know battle is close. You can feel it in the way the water thickens and the sky seems to breathe heavier with each passing mile. On the 4th day, scouts report back. The town is just beyond the bend, built atop a hill ringed with palisades guarded by trained men who know you're coming. Surprise is gone. The Jarl grits his teeth and says, "Good. They'll know what's coming." You don't share the sentiment, but you don't argue. That night you lie in the grass beneath a canopy of stars. No tents, no comforts, just the distant hoot of an owl and the muffled breathing of men trying not to dream. The Jarl's daughter is not here, of course, but you think of her anyway. The way she said, "Take me with you," and how she didn't flinch when you told her about the quiet inside the rage. You wonder if she'll wait. You wonder if you'll give her the choice. At dawn, it begins. No horns, no ceremony, just the soft whistle of arrows and the thud of boots against earth. The battle is brutal. You charge the gate with your shield raised, bare pelt streaming behind you, axe in hand. The first blow glances off your shoulder, the second you catch with your blade and counter, carving the man open from chest to hip. Blood sprays across your face, hot and sudden. And the bear? It doesn't roar, it guides. You fight like water, moving through the gaps, flowing with breath, striking only when necessary. You don't scream, you don't lose yourself, but your strikes land with terrible precision. You break a man's arm with your shield, trip him, and finish him without hesitation. To an outsider it might not even look like berserking, but to the men beside you, it's terrifying, because they see someone fighting with clarity, with restraint, with intent. The gate falls, your warband pours through. Arrows rain from the parapets. You duck, roll, rise, and climb the walls like a shadow. At the top, a defender swings a warhammer at your head. You catch his arm, twist, and toss him over the edge without a word. When the town surrenders, you're standing atop the central hall, blood soaking into your boots, arms heavy but steady. The Jarl raises his axe and shouts. The warband erupts, but you just watch, breathing slow, waiting for the calm after the storm, and when it comes, it brings with it a strange stillness. A first war, they'll call it, your first song. The Skalds begin crafting it that very night. You hear snippets already. The iceborne flame, the quiet rage, the beast with a human face. You sit by the fire and sip water while others drink themselves sick. You don't need mead. The memory is still warm enough. Someone tosses you a chunk of roasted meat. You catch it without looking. One of the younger warriors, the one who asked if you'd kill him if he lost control, stares at you like you've grown another head. You weren't even berserking, he says. You glance at him. You sure? He swallows. You didn't howl. You didn't foam. I didn't need to. He nods slowly. That's worse. You grin, just a little. There's a historical curiosity buried in this. Accounts of berserkers show sharp divisions between those who fought with full abandon and those who learned to modulate their trance. Controlled fury, precision berserking. Some sagas refer to these warriors as shadow berserkers, rare and often distrusted but devastating in combat. Less spectacle, more threat. You're starting to understand that. The Jarl calls you over that night. You kneel at his side. He says, they fear you now. Not just because of what you are, because of what you've become. That's good, but it's also dangerous. You nod. They should fear me. He studies you. Do you? You pause. No. He smiles. Then maybe you're ready. Ready for what? But he doesn't answer. Not directly. He just raises a horn and toasts the night. And your name. The fire crackles, the bodies burn. The town is quiet now, broken but conquered. And for the first time you wonder what victory really means. Not for the Jarl, not for the songs, but for you. The prisoner doesn't beg. Not when they drag him through the ruined gate. Not when they throw him to the ground before the Jarl. And not when they strip him of his armour and press a blade to his neck. He's young, no older than you were on your first raid. But there's something in his eyes that's already hardened. He kneels, jaw clenched, blood streaking down one side of his face, and he says nothing. That's the first thing you respect about him. The second is that when the Jarl offers him a clean death, the boy spits at his feet. The warband howls with laughter. One man kicks the prisoner in the ribs and the boy grunts but doesn't fall over. The Jarl turns to you, smirking. Maybe you'll get some use out of him, Iskalda. You like broken things. You look down at the boy. He meets your gaze, eyes burning, and says, "Do it, coward." You blink, not at the insult, at the fact that he means it, not empty bravado, not some cheap bid for mercy. He truly wants to die, on his feet, facing his killer. You crouch in front of him. What's your name? Names for people who get to keep them. You fought well. I killed 3 of yours. Then you've earned a name. Pick one. He stares, then slowly. Rask. It means quick in your tongue. Appropriate. He was fast. Ducked under your blade at least once during the chaos. Almost opened your side before Ulf's hammer caught him across the skull. You nod. All right, Rask. You're mine now. The warband falls into stunned silence. The Jarl raises an eyebrow. You want him alive? For now. Don't get soft on me. You stand. Not soft. Curious. You drag Rask back to camp yourself. No rope. No chains. Just a quiet agreement between 2 killers pretending they aren't impressed with each other. You sit him beside the fire, toss him a strip of salted meat and say nothing. He doesn't eat it, but he doesn't throw it either. Progress. Over the next few days, the warband prepares to leave. The town's been picked clean, livestock driven out, valuables claimed, bodies burned. The Jarl is already talking about the next target, spinning tales of gold and glory like a drunk Skald chasing attention. But your focus stays on Rask. You don't know why at first. He doesn't talk much, doesn't answer questions, but he watches. Always. And when he thinks you're not looking, you see the muscle twitch in his jaw like he's waiting for a chance to strike. It should make you cautious. Instead, it makes you intrigued. One morning you find him sparring with one of the younger warriors, your wide-eyed student from before. Not hard, not malicious, just testing. You stand in the shadows and watch. Rask moves differently than your men, quicker, lower to the ground, less brute strength, more finesse. He fights like he's used to being outnumbered, and he doesn't aim to win, he aims to learn. The fight ends when he throws your trainee into the dirt and steps back without gloating. You nod to yourself. Later that night, you toss him a wooden training sword. He looks at it, then at you. I'm not teaching you, you say. I'm challenging you. He smirks. You afraid I'll beat you? No. I'm hoping you'll surprise me. He does. You circle each other for what feels like hours under the grey-blue light of dusk. Neither of you speaks. It's not a battle. It's a conversation. Strike, parry, shift, a question, an answer. Every blow says, "Do you understand me yet?" And every block says, "Not yet, but I'm listening." You don't go full rage. You don't need to. You match his speed with efficiency, his cunning with control. When the fight ends, you both stand panting, bruised, sweating. You hand him a water skin and he takes it, drinks, says, "Thanks." And that's how it begins. No grand arc, no reluctant enemy turned best friend. Just understanding. The kind forged in silence and sweat and the fact that both of you have bled into the dirt and lived to tell the story. He never becomes your second in command. Too stubborn, too angry. But he becomes something else. Your mirror. The one who challenges your judgment. The one who sees the cracks before anyone else. One day, as you prepare to break camp, he asks, "Why'd you keep me alive?" You say, "Because you didn't want to be." That's not an answer. "It's the only one I had." He nods. Quirky twist for this chapter. Some Viking raiders captured in foreign lands weren't executed. They were adopted. Not legally, culturally. If they survived long enough, proved themselves useful or honourable in battle, they could earn a place among their captors. The boundary between enemy and brother wasn't as sharp as the history books suggest. Of course, that doesn't mean trust came easily. You test Rask constantly. Send him on solo foraging runs. Have him spar with the worst-tempered warriors. Watch how he handles disrespect, boredom, temptation. He never breaks. But he never fully submits either. That's fine. You've had enough of blind loyalty. The Jarl watches your strange friendship with some amusement and some concern. He's a weapon, he warns you one night, and weapons don't care who wields them. You sip your mead. That's what makes them useful. Or dangerous. Or both. He raises his horn. Just don't hand him yours. And yet, despite the warnings, you begin to trust Rask. Not with secrets, not with strategy, but with truth. You tell him about the red, the rage, the bear, the silence that followed. He listens. Then he says, "You weren't weak, you were tired." And you believe him, because he says it like someone who's felt it too. When the warband returns home, Rask walks beside you, not behind. The village sees him and stares. Some recognize his features. He fought some of them before, maybe even scarred a few. But no one stops him. No one challenges you. He lives in a hut near the river, hunts alone, trains often. But when trouble brews, he's always beside you, axe ready, eyes clear. You don't call him friend, not yet. But you don't call him prisoner anymore either. The Jarl's daughter is waiting for you. You knew she would be. It's not a prophecy. It's just instinct now. She's perched near the same cliff where you first spoke after your return, bow resting across her knees, wind tousling her hair. She doesn't turn when you approach, just nods slightly, as if to say you're late, though no one said when you were supposed to arrive. You sit beside her, quietly. It's mid-morning. The fjord below shimmers with soft light, the tide rolling in lazy waves. The village behind you breathes the calm between raids, smoke curling from longhouse roofs, goats bleating, children chasing each other with sticks and too much energy. You'd almost think this place was peaceful, if you didn't know better. She speaks first. "So, Rask." You blink. "You've heard?" Everyone's heard. Half the village thinks he's your new pet. The other half thinks he's going to stab you in your sleep. You shrug. Maybe both are right. She laughs, but it's dry. Is that a joke? Not a good one. Silence again, comfortable but tense. Then she says, "You've changed." You nod. "So have you." She looks down at her hands. "They want to marry me off." Your jaw tightens. "To who?" "Some merchant's son from across the water. Brings gold, grain. Wants to align families." You don't speak. "Wants to own things," she adds bitterly. "A wife. A village. Me." Still, you say nothing. She finally turns to you. "Do you care?" And just like that, the silence isn't comfortable anymore. It's sharp, cold, like ice forming between the two of you. You want to say yes, that you care more than you should. that the thought of her belonging to anyone else makes your bear stir and your fists clench, that you dream about her in quiet, painful flashes whenever the rage subsides enough to leave room for softer things. But you also know what happens to people you care about. They die, or they bleed, or they get taken away because someone like you doesn't belong in something as gentle as love. I don't want to see you in chains, you say finally. So I'm not in chains. Not yet. She's quiet. The waves below keep crashing, regular and patient. Then say something, she whispers. You meet her eyes. If I say the wrong thing, I lose you. And if you say nothing, you still might. She stands. Come to the spring tonight, she says, eyes narrowed. If you don't, I'll know your answer. And she leaves. Just like that. You spend the rest of the day training, not because you need it, but because your body needs something to do. You drill until your arms shake, until your shoulders lock, until even the bear inside you quiets down out of concern. You spar with Rask, hard. He notices your edge and doesn't ask about it. Eventually, as dusk crawls in and the wind shifts from salty to damp, you walk toward the spring. You've been there before. It's sacred ground. Not in the grand temple with altars sense, but in the way people instinctively lower their voices when they get close. Surrounded by birch trees and moss-covered stones, the water bubbles up from underground, clear and cold, always moving. Some say it's where a god once cried. Others say it's just a spring. You find her there. She's barefoot, toes in the water, hair loose. She doesn't look like a warrior tonight. Doesn't look like a Jarl's daughter either. She looks like someone waiting for a truth she's not sure she wants to hear. You don't speak. Neither does she. Instead, you sit beside her and remove your boots. Slide your feet into the water. It's shockingly cold, but it centers you. Forces your breath to slow. Your heartbeat to settle. I'm not a safe man, you say finally. She smirks. You think I want a safe man? I'm not good at softness. You don't have to be. I don't know how long I'll live. Then don't waste the time you have. You finally look at her. If you stay with me, you'll bleed. I already have. She leans in, her forehead resting against yours. I don't need promises, she whispers. I just need truth. And you give it. You kiss her. Not like a man starved for affection. Not like a savage taking what he thinks he's owed. You kiss her like you're asking permission. And when she doesn't pull away, the bear inside you exhales. You stay at the spring until the moon rises, talking, touching. Not in the way of tangled limbs and hidden groans, but fingers tracing old scars, jokes whispered between sips of water, the kind of intimacy that doesn't demand more than it offers. And in the quiet afterward, you feel the bear and the wolf both curl around your chest, not to crush it, but to hold it steady. There's a fringe legend barely whispered in a single saga, a berserker who loved so fiercely that his rage bent around it. Not disappeared, not dulled, but honed, directed, focused. They say he fought with one hand always outstretched, ready to return to the one who waited for him. They say he never lost a battle, but he never stopped looking behind him either. You wonder if you're becoming that man. Later, back at the village, you part ways with her quietly. No announcement, no audience, just a glance, a shared smile, something only you two understand. Rask notices. Of course he does. You two are a bad idea, he mutters the next morning as you saddle up for patrol. You grin. All the best things are. He doesn't argue, but he watches your back a little closer that day. As the weeks roll on, you and she settle into something that isn't exactly public, but isn't hidden either. She joins you on scouting runs. You train together. Sometimes she sleeps near your fire. Sometimes she doesn't. People talk. You let them. The Jarl watches too. One evening he calls you into the longhouse, offers you mead. Not a gesture he extends lightly. She could do worse, he says. You raise a brow. Could do better too. Maybe, he admits, but she doesn't want better. She wants you. And you've bled enough to earn my trust. You pause. You're not going to stop it? He shrugs. I've tried to stop worse things. None of them listened. Then he fixes you with a look that strips away the father, the Jarl, the old drunk storyteller. If you ever make her cry where I can hear it, he says, I'll gut you in front of the warband. You raise your cup. Fair enough. And just like that, your world shifts again. The rage doesn't vanish. The bear doesn't curl up and sleep forever. But now, when it growls, you remember her voice. When it surges, you remember her hand. And when you roar, It's not just for blood, it's to find your way back. The fog rolls in thick and wet the morning the Jarl sends for you. It clings to your boots, your cloak, your eyelashes, curling in your beard like a secret you forgot to tell. Rask is already sharpening his blades when you walk into the hall. He gives you a glance that says something's wrong. You nod. You feel it too. Inside, the longhouse is dim, the hearth low and smouldering. The Jarl leans over a table littered with carved bone markers and weather-cracked maps. His daughter, your not quite betrothed, not quite secret, is standing nearby, arms crossed, face unreadable. The mountain people, the Jarl says without looking up. They sent for help. You pause. From us? They don't like us, Rask mutters. No one does. Doesn't matter, the Jarl grunts. They're desperate. Their hunters went missing weeks ago. Livestock torn apart. People dragged from beds. Something's in the fog. You squint. Bandits? The Jarl finally meets your eyes. They say it's not human. That earns a full silence. Even Rask shifts. You've heard whispers over the years. Half stories. Night creeping tales pass between scolds and drunkards. A thing in the highlands that moves without sound, kills without pattern. Sometimes it leaves bones. Sometimes nothing at all. People call it a troll, a wight, a giant. One man swore it was a cursed god, flayed and banished from Asgard, stalking the dark in shame. But those are stories. Except, when the fog rolls in like this, heavy and wrong, you begin to wonder. You're sent with 10 men. Not the full warband. This isn't a raid. It's a scout mission. You're told to see what's true, and if it is, kill it, the Jarl says simply. You set out by midday, climbing the frost-lined trails into the highlands, where the pines grow too thick and the moss hangs like old cobwebs. The deeper you go, the quieter it gets. Even the birds stop singing. The wind loses its voice, the men start whispering without realizing it. Rask walks beside you, unusually tense. I don't like this, he mutters. It's too still, you grunt. You say that every time. He shakes his head. Not like this. The trees are listening, you snort. Then let them hear me coming. But you lower your voice anyway. You reach the mountain village by nightfall. It's smaller than you expected. Just a few longhouses, huddled like scared animals beneath the cliffs. Fires burn low. The people barely look up when you arrive. You're led to the headman, who doesn't speak right away. He just opens the door to his hall and points. Inside, laid out on a stone slab, are what's left of 2 men. Or were men. Their bodies are twisted, partially shredded, limbs stretched unnaturally, bones snapped like twigs, and their eyes, gone, cleanly removed as if scooped. The room goes quiet. Even the warriors who've seen years of battle look away. Something hunts us at night, the headman says, voice hoarse. Not always. Just when the fog comes, we tried fire, steel. Nothing hurts it. We don't see it. We only hear the breathing, and by then... He doesn't finish. You walk outside. The fog is thicker now, coiling around the buildings, blurring torchlight into dull halos. You feel it press against your skin. Not wet, not cold, just wrong. You call for a watch. 4 men on the edges, blades drawn, torches burning. You and Rask take the centre. The others rest with one eye open. You don't sleep, and the night crawls. At some point past midnight you hear it. Not a roar, not a scream, breathing, low, rhythmic, not far off. You draw your axe. Rask steps beside you, blades ready. You hear it, you nod, and then a scream, short, sharp, cut off. You run toward it, pushing through the fog like water. The torchlight dies behind you. Your breath shortens. Your body tenses. You find blood and a blade, but no man. Then you hear it, running, not toward you, around you, circling. You spin, blade raised, every instinct on fire, then silence, and then nothing. You don't see it, but you feel it. The air changes. Something is right there. You swing hard, connect with nothing. The fog parts slightly, and you catch a glimpse. Not a form, not a face, just a shape. Tall, unnatural. Something that doesn't belong in this world or any other. And just before it vanishes again, you see its eyes. Not glowing, not red, just empty, like staring into an open grave. You regroup with the others by dawn. 1 man missing, 2 injured. One swears he saw his dead brother standing in the fog, calling his name. Another won't speak at all now, just mutters about too many teeth. You speak to the headman. "We need bait," you say. He flinches. "You mean a sacrifice?" "I mean a trap." You spend the day building it. Torches, trip lines, nets soaked in oil. You leave a single man in the centre, armed but exposed. The rest of you hide, weapons ready. Night falls, fog returns, and the breathing starts. This time it comes from above, from the trees, and you don't wait. You signal the trap. Rask hurls a torch, it catches. The net goes up. The flames dance, and for 1 second you see it. Not a man, not an animal, but something with limbs too long, skin too pale, and a face that shifts. It moves wrong. You and Rask charge. You scream, not a berserker scream, a warning, a declaration. The thing turns, and it bleeds. Your axe strikes deep. It screeches, a sound like ice cracking. It lashes out. You dodge. Rask doesn't. He takes the hit, flies 10 feet, lands hard. You keep swinging, not with rage, with purpose. You drive the axe again, and it dies. Slowly, almost reluctantly. When it stops moving, the fog begins to lift. By morning it's gone. The villagers cry, pray, burn what's left. You don't celebrate. Neither does Rask once he stops coughing up blood. "What was it?" he asks, lying in a straw bed. You stare at the smoke drifting from the funeral pyre. "I don't know," you whisper, "but it wasn't the only one." A quirky historic theory says trolls were metaphors for isolation and madness, manifestations of human guilt and grief. Others think they were born from natural dangers, avalanches, predators, even disease, given monstrous shapes to explain why some people simply vanished. But what you fought, that wasn't metaphor. And somewhere deep in your chest the bear shifts uneasily. Some enemies can't be defeated, only survived. The mushrooms are dry, brittle, and smell like dirt and death. Ulf hands them to you in a small pouch made of cured seal skin, his face unreadable in the early morning gloom. No instructions, no blessing. Just a grunt and a nod toward the trail leading into the forest. You don't ask questions. You've heard enough. You know where it leads. The trial of Odin isn't a rite they speak about openly. Not even the berserkers. Not even the seers. It's the kind of thing only done when you're no longer sure who you are, or if what you've become is something the gods even recognize. You're not being punished. You're being tested. Or maybe you're the one who decided it's time to stop walking the line between man and monster and just ask the gods what the hell they want from you. So you go. No armor. No blade. Just the pouch, your pelt, and the pulse of curiosity that beats beneath your ribs like a war drum muffled in snow. The forest is thicker here, older. The kind of place where trees don't just grow, they watch. Their branches twist like fingers. Their bark looks like skin. You walk deeper until the air changes, colder, heavier, like the earth is exhaling something you weren't meant to breathe. And then you find it. The tree. It's not Yggdrasil, not literally, but it's the closest you'll ever come. A massive ash tree, dead in the middle, hollowed out by time and lightning. Ravens nest in the upper limbs. One lands nearby and cocks its head at you. Not curious, not friendly, just observant. It lets out a sharp craw and flies off. You sit beneath the tree and pull out the mushrooms. This is how Odin found wisdom, they say. Hung himself on the world tree for 9 days and nights, pierced by his own spear, starving and alone, just to snatch the runes from the void. You're not going to hang yourself, not unless things go really sideways, but you're here to reach for something. Maybe not runes, maybe just clarity. You chew the mushrooms slowly. They taste like bitter rot and regret. At first, nothing happens, then everything does. The world doesn't spin, it melts. The trees bend, the air thickens. You feel yourself sliding down, not through earth, but through thought. The bear wakes up, not in anger, but in confusion. It snarls softly in the back of your brain like it's not sure what plane of existence you've dragged it into. Your breath slows, your heart starts sinking with something. Not your own rhythm, not even the forests, the trees. Then come the voices. At first they whisper, then they shout. You see a battlefield stretched across the stars, warriors locked in eternal war. You recognize faces, some dead, some not yet born. You see Rask, blooded and blindfolded, standing in a ring of fire. You see the Jarl's daughter holding a crown made of thorns and ice, her face older, her smile colder. You see Ulf dragging a body into the sea. You see yourself, mouth open in a scream, but no sound comes out. A raven lands on your shoulder, it speaks. You fear your destiny. You try to answer. Nothing comes. You are not the beast, it says. You are the gate. What does that mean? You finally manage, voice thick as honey. But the raven doesn't answer. It flaps away. You try to stand, you can't. You're buried. Not literally, but in memory. You see your mother's face, soft worn, whispering lullabies to you before she knew what you would become. You see your father sharpening a blade, eyes hollowed out from things he never said. You see the first man you killed, his expression, his eyes. You scream, not in fear, in understanding. The rage didn't make you, it uncovered you. You weren't born to be a berserker. You were born with too much thought, too much feeling, too much fire for a normal life. The rage wasn't a curse, it was a translation, a way to make your voice heard in a language the world actually listened to. And the bear isn't the monster, it's the map. The mushroom visions fracture again. You're walking through a field of bones. Each skull whispers a different name, some yours, some strangers, some you haven't met yet. You walk barefoot. You feel each crack. You don't bleed. At the end of the field is a woman. She wears a cloak made of woven screams. You know who she is. Valkyrie, maybe, or death itself. She offers you 2 items, your axe and a mirror. You reach for the axe. She frowns. You stop. You reach for the mirror. In it you don't see yourself. You see the bear, and the bear is crying. Then everything goes white, and then black, and then nothing. You wake at dusk, covered in sweat, shaking. The forest is quiet, the ravens are gone, the air smells differently. You're not hurt, but something inside you is emptied. You get to your feet slowly. Your legs are stiff. Your mouth is dry. The pouch is empty. The world is dull, but only because your senses have been reset. Everything is real now. Too real. Too sharp. The trees look too alive. The wind too conscious. You walk back in silence. Ulf is waiting at the edge of the trail. He doesn't ask anything, just hands you a water skin. You drink, wipe your mouth. He finally says, "Did the gods speak?" You shake your head. "They screamed," he chuckles. "That's normal." "What happens now?" you ask, and he shrugs. "You live, or you don't. The gods don't care either way." You return to the village that night. The sky is full of stars. The longhouse glows like a memory. The Jarl's daughter greets you at the gate with a question in her eyes. You kiss her forehead and whisper, "Not yet." She nods. She understands. The bear doesn't speak again for days, but when it does, it asks you one question. Are you listening now? And you are. Because sometimes the rage isn't the voice, it's the echo. Historical aside, psychedelic rituals were not unheard of in Norse culture. While concrete evidence is scarce, there are references to vision quests, spiritual trials, and even shamanic rites involving herbs and fungi. Some argue that Odin's sacrifice on Yggdrasil was not just a metaphor, but a guidepost for transcendence, a blueprint for men who had too many questions and not enough answers. You didn't find peace under the tree, but you found perspective, and that's enough. For now, the sea serpent comes at night, but the fear arrives first. You're one day into your voyage when the omens begin. First, the wind dies, not gently, but all at once, like the gods exhaled and then decided they'd had enough of helping mortals for the day. Then come the gulls, hundreds of them, wheeling overhead in wild, erratic spirals, squawking like they've lost their minds. Rask spits over the side of the ship and mutters, "That's not just birds," and he's right. Then the fog, not the ordinary kind, but a thick, oily curtain that smells like brine and rot, sliding in from the west with unnatural speed. You've seen sea fog before. It moves like breath. But this moves like intent, like a creature slinking toward prey. You know this won't be an ordinary crossing. The voyage had started simple enough. The Jarl received word of a trade ship gone missing between 2 island ports, a quiet diplomatic mission that never arrived. No gold, no bodies, no wreckage. So, naturally he sends you to investigate, because when something strange happens, it usually ends with you knee-deep in something worse than politics. You take a single longship, 20 men, including Rask and a few of the younger berserker hopefuls. The Jarl's daughter watches from the dock as you leave, arms folded, expression unreadable. You'd promised her you'd return, and for once you'd said it without sarcasm. You even meant it. But now, 2 days out, with the sails slack and the fog so thick it coats your tongue, You're starting to doubt that promise. The crew grows restless. Someone starts singing, an old funeral song, low and off-key. You don't stop him. Let them cope however they want. That night the sea goes silent. No waves, no wind, just a sound under the hull, scraping. At first you think it's driftwood, but driftwood doesn't breathe. You lean over the edge, staring into the black, and there it is. Not clearly, just a shadow, a ripple, a suggestion of something too large, too close, too aware of your ship. The water ripples, but not from waves. It moves like something is gliding beneath it, circling. The crew notices. A boy, barely old enough to shave, leans over and whispers, "Did you see that?" Before you can answer, something bumps the ship. Hard. Everyone stumbles. Oars clatter. Someone drops a torch, which hisses as it hits the sea and vanishes. You draw your axe. Rask is already at your side, knives drawn, face tight. A head rises from the water, but it's not a head like any you've seen. It's long, sinuous, with no eyes, just ridges where they should be, and a maw lined with rows of crooked, needle-thin teeth. Its skin is pale, almost translucent, like something not meant for light. The worst part? It doesn't roar. It doesn't screech. It listens. Then it dives, vanishing beneath the ship. The water churns. You shout, "Oars up! No splashing!" Everyone obeys. The silence becomes unbearable. Then, a lurch. The stern rises, lifted. Men scream. You're thrown to the deck. Roll. Grab a rope. And then the sea explodes. A massive coil erupts beside the ship, snapping an oar in two, flinging one of the crew into the air. He hits the water with a scream and then silence. Just a crimson swirl where he used to be. The coil slams down, splintering the railing. Another man is crushed instantly, bones snapping like twigs. You don't hesitate. You run toward the centre mast, climb halfway up and leap, axe in both hands, onto the nearest part of the beast you can reach. You land with a thud, burying the blade deep into the muscle. The creature shudders. Its skin is rubbery, too smooth, but you find purchase. It turns. Suddenly you're face to face with its real head, larger than a man, long snout, teeth like knives, and a tongue that flicks the air like it's tasting your thoughts. You scream, not from fear, but to wake the bear, and it answers. You don't rage blindly. You fight with purpose. Your axe moves in tight arcs, each swing calculated. You use the curve of the beast's body as leverage, leap from one coil to the next as the ship rocks wildly beneath you. The crew tries to fight too, but they're losing. Rask climbs the rigging, then launches himself onto the serpent's back, landing beside you. He stabs deep with both knives, twisting until black blood gushes out. It screams. Finally, a sound so sharp it makes your ears bleed. The beast thrashes, tail whipping the ship's side, snapping boards, tossing bodies like driftwood. You hold on. Rask loses his grip, falls, but lands hard on the deck below, alive but dazed. You climb higher, toward the head, toward the pulsing ridged crown at the base of its skull. There, the weak point. You drive your axe in with every ounce of strength. Again, 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 until the creature shudders, then falls. The entire mass slips beneath the waves, dragging your axe with it. You don't try to retrieve it. You just dive, hit the water cold and sharp, then resurface as the beast disappears into the depths. It doesn't come back. You're hauled onto the ship by what's left of your crew. The sea is quiet again, still no wind. But the fog begins to lift, slowly. You count the living. 13 left. Not bad, all things considered. You stare into the water and whisper, "What was that?" Rask coughs nearby. Something old. You nod. Later, while you sit on the deck with a borrowed blanket and a flask of something strong, someone murmurs the word Jörmungandr. You shake your head. Too small, he looks at you pale. Then it was just a child? No one answers. Strange historical aside. Norse mythology tells of Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent, so large it encircles the world. But lesser sea serpents show up too, half god, half monster, symbols of chaos in the ocean's depths. Some scholars argue they were metaphors for the uncontrollable forces of nature. Others, they think our ancestors just saw something big and never lived long enough to explain it. You saw it. You survived it. Barely. When you return home, your ship is battered. Your men are quiet. But your name? Whispered louder than ever. You didn't just fight. You faced the ocean's nightmare and didn't blink. The rage is quiet again, but not asleep. It's waiting. You've never seen a man like him before. He's dressed in simple robes, nothing ornate, nothing flashy, but somehow that only makes him more suspicious. His beard is trimmed neatly, his hands soft, unscarred, and when he speaks, it's not in clipped tones or the barking dialect of northern traders. No, his voice is smooth, gentle, like water running over polished stone. You're used to men who shout, who spit, who curse the sky and praise the axe. This one speaks like he's always inside a prayer, and he's holding a book. You've only seen one before, years ago, in the hands of a foreign slave who couldn't read it either. You remember its weight, its mystery, the way it felt like something you weren't supposed to touch. The priest book is different, not dusty, not forgotten. This one is used, loved, like a blade that's never left its sheath. He arrived at the edge of the village 2 days after your return from the sea serpent. Just walked up the path with his little satchel and his strange glowing calm, flanked by 2 guards who clearly didn't know what to make of him. They introduced him as Brother Adalric, from the south, from a monastery you've never heard of. His mission, to offer peace, trade, faith. Naturally the Jarl rolled his eyes. Rask asked if he bled the same as anyone else. You just watched, because there was something about the way the man looked at the sky before he spoke, like he was making sure some distant god was listening. He didn't flinch when the Jarl mocked him, didn't so much as twitch when one of the Scalds mimed tossing his book into the fire. He just waited, patient, calm, and you hated how much that unnerved you. The Jarl let him stay, at least for a few nights. Curiosity mostly, and maybe a bit of greed. Adalric carries a few trinkets, crosses of gold, finely woven cloth, an odd iron implement shaped like a star. He trades generously, too generously. People take his offerings, laugh behind his back and drink to his foolishness. But you watch. On the second evening he approaches you. You're sitting near the forge watching sparks dance as a new axe head is tempered in the coals. Your bear cloak is wrapped around your shoulders, still damp with ocean salt. You don't look up when he speaks. You've seen things, he says simply. You glance at him. So have you. He nods, smiles faintly. Not the same things, I think. Sea serpents, demons in the fog, war, rage. Gods? Which ones? He sits beside you, folding his robe carefully. The ones that listen. You turn to look at him fully. And yours do? Sometimes. His voice is soft. Sometimes they're silent. But even then, I think they're near. You can't help it. You laugh. If mine are silent, it's because they're chewing. He chuckles, but it fades quickly. Do you believe yours know you? I think they made me. That sounds lonely. You raise an eyebrow. Isn't your god alone too? He's quiet at that. Not offended, just thoughtful. There's power in solitude, he says, but it should lead somewhere. Not become a home. You don't know how to respond to that, so you say nothing. He doesn't push. Instead, he opens his book. You don't know the words, but you recognize the rhythm, like a saga, but steadier, more structured. He reads about a man who walks into the desert to be tempted by evil, a man who refuses, a man who bleeds and prays and walks again. You're quiet. He closes the book gently. Not all battles are fought with blades. Sounds less fun. Sometimes, but no less costly. The conversation haunts you. You spend the next day shadowing him from a distance. He talks with the children, sits with the elders, offers medicine to the sick, things that smell bitter but work better than half the moss and bark poultices you've used your whole life. He doesn't preach, not the way you expected. He just exists, calmly, presently, like someone who truly believes nothing can shake him. And that shakes you. You find him near the river at dusk, alone, reading again. You ask, "Why aren't you afraid of me?" He looks up, puzzled. "Should I be?" You laugh, not cruelly, just genuinely. Most are. He studies you. "I see rage in you, but I don't see evil. Tell that to the men I've torn apart. Would you have done differently if you could?" You pause. "Some of them." He nods. "That's a good start." Quirky historical fact. Christian missionaries in the Viking Age were often sent into dangerous, unreached territories with nothing but a book, a few relics, and orders to convert or die trying. Some succeeded. Others disappeared. A few, like Adalric, seemed to survive not through sermons, but through sheer, baffling presence. They confused warriors into listening, confounded rage with kindness. You spar with him verbally over the next few days. He doesn't argue. He asks. You hate how effective it is. He never tries to convert you, but he plants seeds. The idea that not all strength is muscle, that forgiveness isn't surrender, that silence isn't always emptiness. You still don't trust him, but you start to respect him. And then someone sets fire to his quarters. You wake to smoke, shouting, and the crackle of burning wood. Rask is already hauling water. You leap in beside him, but the fire's already too far gone. You pull Adalric from the edge of the blaze, his robes scorched, eyes wide with smoke, book singed but intact. No one claims responsibility, but everyone knows. The village isn't ready for his kind of peace. You help him rebuild. He thanks you. You say, "I'm still not yours." He smiles. "You don't have to be." You study him. "You're either the bravest man I've ever met," you say, "or the most foolish." He nods. Both, probably. He leaves 2 days later, walking alone, book under one arm, hand raised in silent farewell. No guards, no weapon. You watch him disappear into the woods, and for the first time, you wonder what it would mean to believe in something that doesn't scream, that doesn't demand blood, that offers grace not in battle, but in being seen. The bear is quiet, the rage is still. But something else stirs. Curiosity. It happens fast. The kind of fast you don't process until later, when the dust has settled and the blood is drying on your chest, and someone's hand is pressing down on your ribs, telling you to hold on. One moment, you're standing at the front lines of a minor skirmish, just another clash with a rival clan over some insult or territory or honour that no one will remember in 5 winters. And the next, there's a spear through your side, and your legs give out like snapped oars. You don't feel the pain right away. First, you feel heat, then pressure, then cold, and then, strangely, nothing. Just a slow collapse into the mud, your hand searching for your axe and not finding it. Around you, chaos swirls. Swords clang. Men scream. Someone calls your name, distant and panicked. Could be Rask. Could be the Jarl's daughter. Could be the gods. Hard to tell. You hit the ground hard, your bear cloak twisting around you like it's trying to protect you, and then the sky, grey and heavy, starts to shrink. Not fade, just narrow, like the edges of your world are curling inward. You think, well, this is it. You even try to laugh, but your mouth is full of blood. They drag you from the battlefield. You remember flashes, faces hovering above you, the blur of trees, the crackle of fire, the sting of something being poured into your wound that makes your spine arch. You hear someone say the word dying. You hear no pulse. You hear not breathing. You hear gone, and then you hear nothing. You die. For real. Or, at least you're not in your body anymore. There's no tunnel, no blinding light, no chorus of golden-haired warriors waiting to welcome you to Valhalla, with horns of mead and long tables piled with roasted boar. There's just snow, endless, waist-deep snow. You're walking, or floating, or being pulled. You can't tell. You look down and see no tracks behind you. The wind howls, but it doesn't move your hair. You're weightless, but still there. Still you. In the distance, something glows. Not warmly, coldly. Like starlight reflecting off a frozen lake. You move toward it, step by step, and with each step the wind grows quieter. The silence becomes profound, as though even your thoughts are being muffled. Then you see her. A figure, tall, cloaked, wings stretched wide, not feathered, not soft. These are not the wings of some dove from a southern painting. These are raven's wings, dark, sharp, unkind. The air around her smells like iron and smoke. Her face is hidden beneath a helm, but you know who she is. A Valkyrie. She doesn't speak, doesn't beckon, she just waits. You step closer, bracing yourself. You're ready. You've earned this. Blood on your blade, scars on your skin. Honor, mostly, intact. If this is Valhalla, you'll take it. But she raises one hand, stops you. You freeze. She tilts her head. Then finally she speaks. You're not done. You blink. What? You're not done. Her voice is not soft, it's not cruel, it's like stone cracking under frost. Ancient. Final. You step forward again. She doesn't move. But suddenly she's closer. She presses 2 fingers to your chest, and you fall. Not backward, not downward, inward. You fall into yourself, and you wake up screaming. The pain is unbearable. You thrash, and hands push you down. Rask is above you, face wild, shouting your name. The Jarl's daughter appears beside him, eyes wide, her hand on your forehead. You're soaked in sweat. Your side is wrapped in blood-soaked linen. Someone is sobbing nearby. Could be you. You're alive. Barely. You spend the next few days in a fever haze, dreamless, or maybe too many dreams, all tangled into one long fog of memory and future and something else. You feel the wound throb, like it's trying to speak. The bear is silent. The rage is buried. All that's left is pain. And something else. A presence not watching. Waiting. The village murmurs. He died. I saw his eyes. Gone. No pulse. But he came back. Ras keeps people away. Threatens to break bones if anyone pokes too hard. The Jarl visits once, stares at you, then leaves without a word. You understand. He doesn't know what to do with a warrior who's already died once. You don't either. Eventually you're strong enough to walk. You limp to the river, stare at your reflection. Something's wrong. Not physically. Your face is the same, the scar on your chin, the flecks of grey in your beard from frost and fire. But your eyes, they're colder, not in a dead way, in a distance way. Like you're seeing things the rest of you hasn't caught up to yet. You find the cloak of the Valkyrie in your dreams now, always watching, never moving. Sometimes she nods, sometimes she says your name, but she never takes you. Not yet. Quirky side note, there are tales of berserkers who died and came back, not as ghosts, not as zombies, as something else. Seers called them twice-born, changed, blessed, or cursed, depending on who you asked. Some became mystics, some became monsters, some walked into the sea and never returned. You wonder which you'll be. The Jarl's daughter visits you late one night. You don't speak. She just sits beside you, lays her head on your shoulder. After a long silence, she says, "You weren't supposed to die before me." You answer, "I didn't." "But you did." And she's right. You did. You're not the same. Your rage doesn't burn. It waits. Your heart doesn't pound. It listens. Your eyes don't blink. They watch. You've changed. Not into something worse. Not into something better. Just into something that knows it won't get another warning. Whatever time you have left, it's borrowed, and you intend to spend every drop of it earning the extra heartbeat. The dreams come first, not the familiar ones. No fog-cloaked forests, no burning halls, no twisted beasts lurking just outside your periphery. These are different, sharper, louder. You wake in the middle of the night to the taste of ash on your tongue, blood under your nails, heart racing like you just fled battle. But you're alone, unwounded, alive, and somehow that makes it worse. In the dreams she appears, always her, the Valkyrie. Not as a saviour, not as some winged goddess gliding in to lift your soul to glory, but as something more complicated, more human. She walks beside you in a burned-out field, barefoot, expression blank. Sometimes she's close enough to touch, sometimes far off in the mist. She doesn't speak. She just points. You try not to look, but you always do. And every time you follow her gaze, you see a future that shouldn't exist. A child. Yours, probably. Hair like coal. A small face smeared with soot. Eyes that look too much like yours. And behind the child, a battlefield. One you don't recognize because it hasn't happened yet. You don't mention the dreams at first. Not to the Jarl's daughter, not to Rask, not even to the fire in your longhouse when you sit alone at night and stare into the embers like they might offer an answer. The village is already murmuring about your return from the edge. You don't want to feed the story further. He died and came back. Now he sees ghosts. No thank you. But the dreams keep coming, and then things begin to change. Animals avoid you, not dramatically, just subtle things. Your horse won't meet your eye. The village dogs growl low in their throats when you walk by. A hawk circles over your roof for 3 days and doesn't blink when you stare back. Even your own shadow seems to lag behind you, slightly off, like it's remembering something you haven't. And worst of all, the rage feels different. It's gentler, not gone, not dulled, but deeper, like a river running far beneath the earth, still moving, still strong, but patient. Then one night the Valkyrie speaks. You're in the dream again, same field, same child in the distance. But this time the sky is bleeding, an unnatural red streaking across the clouds like a wound in the world. The Valkyrie steps toward you. Her face is clear now, not young, not old, Not beautiful in the way men write poems about, but in the way glaciers are beautiful, terrible and unmovable. You've been offered a path, she says. You blink. To what? To choice. Isn't that the same as freedom? No, freedom is for those who haven't been touched by fire. You laugh bitterly. Then what's left? She tilts her head. The burden of guiding others into it. You wake gasping. The fire in your hearth is out. Dead. The coal's cold. But there are footprints on the floor. Bare ones. Just a few near your bed. And then they stop. You do not sleep again that night. The next morning you walk through the village like someone seeing it for the last time. Children play near the mead hall, too young to know what the world does to people. Your warband sharpens blades they may never get to use. The Jarl's daughter stands at the river, her bow across her back, her braid tied tighter than usual. She turns when you approach. You're pale, she says. I don't think I'm pale. I think the world just got darker. She nods slowly. The god's been whispering again. Shouting, she studies your face. Say it! What? What you've been carrying since you died. You take a breath. I saw a child, you say. Her face changes. And it felt like... mine? Silence. Then she speaks, slow and careful. I missed a moon cycle. Your stomach drops. Everything clicks. And suddenly, the dreams aren't just dreams. They're warnings. Not of death, not of your own doom, but of something new. Something terrifying. Something alive. I don't want this to make you smaller, you say. I don't want to become someone who runs from softness. She smiles. You never could. Not really. But if I choose this, you already did. That night, you build a second fire. One for warmth, one for the child, and as you sit between them, the bear finally speaks. Not in a growl, not in a roar, in words. She will break you. You close your eyes. Good. She will unmake you. You nod. Let her. She will make you choose. You open your eyes. I already did. There's a strange truth buried in the margins of old lore. Berserkers were not supposed to have families. Too wild, too cursed, too consumed. And yet, some did. Quietly, on the edges of society. They built homes outside the village lines, raised their children in silence, taught them that power is only dangerous when it forgets who it's protecting. Some of those children grew up and became more than just warriors. They became bridges between two worlds. Rask finds you the next day, sharpening a new axe. He doesn't ask questions, he just says, "So you're going to be a father?" You nod. "God's help us all," he mutters. Then he grins. And you laugh for the first time in days. Later, you walk through the woods with the Jarl's daughter. The leaves are starting to change. You think of the child inside her, tiny, forming, with a heartbeat you'll hear someday if you're lucky. You're not afraid of war, you're not afraid of gods, but you are afraid of being known, truly known, and still loved anyway. That's the kind of miracle even berserkers don't get. But maybe you're not just a berserker anymore. Maybe you're a man who died and came back not to kill, but to build. The first time the baby kicks, you don't cry. That comes later. First you freeze, then you look at her. You're Jarl's daughter. You're not wife, not quite lover, not always willing confidant, and she's laughing. That small, quiet laugh she does when something is so big it feels safer to act like it's small. Her hand rests on her belly. Your hand is still there too, where the tiny movement just happened. Just a little shift, like someone knocking politely from the inside of the world, and then you laugh too. Not the roar of a berserker or the scoff of a man trying to seem tougher than his own scars. A real laugh, soft, reluctant, honest. I think they're already stronger than you, she says. You look at her and say, then we're all doomed. The pregnancy grounds you in ways battle never could. The village still sees you as the warrior, the shadow from the woods, the man who came back wrong. But behind the longhouse, in the clearing where the chickens peck and the firewood stacks lean slightly too far to the left, you're just you, a man tying fishing nets, chopping wood, listening to names being debated in the late hours. She wants something strong, traditional. You lean towards softer names, something different. You both know the child will choose their own name in the end. There's still tension in the air, of course. Always. You're not stupid enough to think you're safe just because you're warm. Rumours ripple through the village like thin ice cracking under cautious boots. Other clans have noticed your strength, your territory. The Jarl, her father, is aging, slower, his drinking heavier. He jokes that if your child is born soon enough, maybe he can pass his seat onto someone who doesn't reek of goat. You're not sure if he's joking. Rask is more paranoid than usual. He spends long hours sharpening not just his weapons, but your backups. He organises patrols, double-checks the walls, posts watchmen in places that haven't needed watching in years. "It's too quiet," he says one night, handing you a dagger. You eye him, says the man who used to welcome quiet. He frowns. Quiet is good. Silence is not. You nod because he's right. Something's coming. You feel it like an itch under the skin, like the way birds leave a forest a moment before the lightning strikes, but you don't know where it'll come from, or who it'll take. Still, you try to live like a man who has something to lose now, which is dangerous. One afternoon you sit with the seer. She doesn't invite you, you go unannounced. Her hut smells like old bones and damp fur, a place where time folds in on itself. She squints at you through one eye, the other milky and blank. "You've changed," she rasps, and you grunt. "Everything does," she grins. "Not everything. Death still eats, even when there's nothing on the plate." You glance around. "So what's it hungry for now?" She stares into her fire. "Something inside your walls. Something too quiet to hear until it screams. Give me something useful." She looks at you. You already know what you need. Which is just another way of saying, "You're on your own, sweetheart." You return home that night to find her, your Jarl's daughter, now unmistakably pregnant, sitting by the fire, carving a tiny wooden figure. A fox, maybe, or a dog. You can't tell. Her hands are steady, her face peaceful. You sit beside her and say, "What if I'm not meant to be a father?" She doesn't look up. "Then I'll raise a child with a man who fights that fate anyway." You take a breath. "What if I pass it down?" The rage, the quiet, the bear. She does look at you now. "Then we teach them to shape it." You want to believe her, but deep down you're not sure the rage can be shaped. And then, as if summoned by your thoughts, it returns. Not all at once, just a whisper, a pulse, a shiver beneath your ribs. You're out in the forest the next day, hunting rabbits for stew when you feel it. The shift. Like someone's breathing through your lungs with you. Your grip tightens around the spear. Your vision sharpens. A branch breaks in the distance and suddenly the forest is alive with threat. But there's no threat, just a deer. You lower the spear, and the rage huffs. It's testing you now, seeing if you're still its home, still its willing host. You kneel, press your palm to the ground and whisper, "I'm not yours anymore." A breeze stirs the trees, but no answer. Later Rask finds you on the edge of the village, sitting cross-legged, silent. He tosses a bag of dried meat into your lap. You look like a man waiting to be struck by lightning. You sigh. "I'm waiting to see if I strike myself." He sits beside you. "It's still in you?" You nod, but different now, like it's choosing its moments. He squints. "Then maybe you're finally choosing yours too." You chew on that. As the weeks pass, preparations begin, not for battle, not for birth, but for both. You make repairs to the longhouse roof, reinforce the fences, train with the younger warriors. Even the ones who used to flinch when you walked past now ask to spar. You go easy on them, most of the time. The Jarl calls you to his hall one night. His face is pale, his breath ragged. He hands you his axe. "You'll need this before I do," he says. You don't refuse, but the weight of it feels different, like it already knows what's coming. That night she wakes you, gripping your wrist, whispering, "It's time." You bolt upright, but it's not the birth, it's raiders. Someone has breached the eastern gate. The horn sounds. Shouts ripple through the village like panic set to music. You grab your axe, your cloak, your old rage, and for one brief moment you look back at her. "Stay here," you say. She raises her bow. "Make me," and you realize this child isn't being born into a peaceful world. They're being born into yours, blood and all. The horn is still ringing in your ears when you slam the door shut behind her, pressing your back against it as if your body alone can hold out the chaos. Outside, the village is erupting into motion. Boots on mud, blades drawn, shouts rising like steam from every corner. But in here, in the longhouse, it's just the three of you. Her, breathing hard but steady. Rask, checking the windows and fastening the shutters. And you, heart pounding with that familiar, terrible rhythm. It's not the fear of death that drives your heartbeat now. You've made your peace with that many times over. It's not even the fear of failure, though that too tightens your chest like rope around your ribs. It's proximity. because the thing you most want to protect is just inches away from the blade. She moves like she's been training for this moment her whole life, even though she hasn't. Or maybe she has, just not in ways anyone ever saw. She's lithe, quick, silent, hand on her belly as she crouches and draws an arrow, fitting it against the bowstring without hesitation. Rask looks at her, then at you, eyebrows raised in something like reluctant admiration. "You sure she needs you?" he mutters. You smirk. "I'm not." He nods once, then turns and hurls a throwing knife through a narrow slit in the window. A scream follows. Satisfaction flickers across his face. You breathe out and force your rage to wait. It wants to come. It eagerly wants to come, gnawing at the inside of your chest like a wolf left too long in a cage. But you've learned now that rage should be fed like fire. Not all at once, with care, with purpose. "Eastern walls breached," Rask says, voice clipped. "They came under cover of fog. 2 ships worth." You blink. "No warning?" "None." "So they were invited, you think? Or let in?" You grit your teeth. That means someone inside your own gates sold you out. It also means you can't trust everyone with a sword out there. "They'll go for the Jarl first," you say, "or for the longhouse." "They're already here," she says, not looking at you. You pause. Then you hear it too. Boots outside. Creaking planks. Muffled voices. The unmistakable hush of men trying to act invisible. You gesture for silence. Everyone stills. Then crack. A crossbeam shudders. They're at the rear door. You act on instinct. "Upstairs. Now," you say, pointing at the ladder to the loft. She hesitates. You grip her hand. "They won't take you. They won't take either of you." She nods, climbs swiftly. You and Rask take position. There's no dramatic speech, no last-minute confession, just a nod between warriors who've seen enough blood to know it always comes back in waves. The door splinters inward. 3 men, one with a sword too shiny to belong to anyone who's ever used it properly, another with a scar across his nose and an axe you do recognize. He stole it from a corpse 3 years ago. And the third, stocky, fast, eyes darting, dangerous. You let them in. Ras takes the fast one and you take the scar. The third panics and tries to flee. He makes it halfway to the threshold before an arrow punches through his neck from above. You don't have time to admire the shot. You swing. The scarred man is strong, but he's not you. His blows are heavy but wide. You block, pivot, and drive the butt of your axe into his knee. He falls with a grunt. You finish him without pleasure. Rask is breathing hard. His opponent's arm dangles by a thread, the axe discarded. He wipes his blade on the man's tunic. They weren't trained. They didn't come to fight, you say, realizing. They came to steal something. Upstairs, she calls down. My water just broke. You and Rask freeze. He stares at you. Tell me she means the well. You stare up, then back at him. She means the other thing. Of course. The gods have an exquisite sense of humour. He sheathes his blade. I'll hold the door. You go. You hesitate. He glares. You've earned this moment. Don't make me fight you for it. You nod once, grab fresh cloth and climb. The loft is cramped, lit by a single flickering lamp. She's already laid out a blanket. Her jaws clenched, hair slick with sweat. She doesn't look scared. She looks furious. Told you, she says between gritted teeth. This child wasn't going to wait. You laugh to spite yourself. It's time. You've seen death in every form. You've heard bones crack, seen men burned, torn, broken by the gods, or worse. But this is harder than all of it. She squeezes your hand with enough force to remind you she's a Jarl's daughter first, a bowmaster second, and pregnant third. And she doesn't need your pity. Hours pass. Downstairs, the sounds of war rise and fall. Shouts, crashes, metal against metal. Rask yelling insults that would make a troll blush. You force yourself to block it out. You're needed here. Present. You whisper encouragement. Wipe sweat. Offer your cloak for her back. Try to be more than a blade for once. And then, finally, the cry. Small, sharp, alive. You don't breathe. Not until you hold them. This tiny, wriggling storm of heat and lungs and newness. You're scared to move. Scared to drop them. Scared to be seen by someone so clean, so whole. She smiles weakly. What's their name? You look at the child. You think of the bear, the rage, the field of bones, the sea serpent, the Valkyrie. You say, Era, it means mercy. She nods. and downstairs the door bangs open again. Rask roars. The world waits. But for now you stay upstairs. You hold your child, you hold her, and you hold hope. Quirky Norse aside, childbirth was considered a battlefield in its own right. Women were said to go to war to bring life into the world, just as men went to die. Some sagas even note shields placed near beds during birth, symbolic of the fight between life and death. Midwives were warrior priests in their own right. You've known glory in war, but nothing compares to this, to watching someone live. You descend the ladder with Era swaddled in your cloak and your axe in your free hand. Rask meets you at the base, covered in blood that isn't his, grinning like a madman. "About time," he says, panting. "You missed the party." You don't answer. You're too focused. Your ears still ring from the baby's first cry, a sound more potent than any war horn. Your instincts are split, one half ready to rip through anything between you and safety, the other terrified of tripping over your own boots with a newborn in your arms. She follows behind you slowly, pale and spent but upright. The fire in her eyes is still there, just hidden behind the sheer force of endurance. She carries a blade now, too, one of your old ones. It's too big for her, but she holds it like she means it. Outside, the village is smoke and steel. Fires flicker along rooftops. Bodies dot the paths. Some yours, some theirs. The eastern gate is splintered wide open, and beyond it, in the woods, figures move fast, retreating. The raiders came hard, but not long, a strike meant to wound, not to conquer. The Jarl's longhouse still stands, though the top beam leans precariously. Someone's nailed 2 severed heads to the front wall. You don't ask whose. "They fled once they realized we weren't broken," Rask says, limping alongside you. "Cowards." "No," you say. "They saw what we were protecting." You feel it now more than ever. You're no longer just the village weapon. You're its wall. And the child in your arms, not just a new life, but a declaration that something new can be built in the shadow of old gods. You head for the healing hut, where the few remaining women and elders tend to the wounded. The smoke stings your eyes as you step inside. The air smells of herbs, blood, and hot iron. They take her gently, lay her down. One of the older women, eyes clouded but hands steady, offers a nod of quiet approval. She doesn't say anything about the baby, just takes Era and wraps her tighter, then hands her back to you. "You're not cursed," the old woman says softly. "You're claimed." You sit on the floor, back against the wall, baby in one arm, axe across your knees. You don't know if that's a cradle or a threat, but it feels right. Outside, hammers are already ringing against timber. The rebuilding has begun. Hours pass. She sleeps in the cot beside you. Era sleeps in your arms. You don't, because you can't. Not yet. Rask returns after nightfall. His face is bruised, his right arm wrapped in cloth. "We found one of the men who let them in," he says. "Traded information for silver and promises." You nod. You expected that. "What do we do with him?" he asks. You glance down at the baby. Then you look at your axe and you shake your head. "We don't kill him." "Not yet." Rask's brow furrows. "That's not like you." "No," you murmur. "It's not." Because once, vengeance was the only answer you knew. Rage was the only truth you trusted. But now you've held something that hasn't learned to hate yet, and you want to keep the world clean enough for her to live in it, just for a little while. The next morning the Jarl calls a gathering. His voice is raspy, weaker than before. He walks with a cane now. His beard, once thick and proud, is thinner, like frost melting off old stone, but his eyes still hold fire. "Someone betrayed us," he says, his voice carrying across the crowd, "and they will answer." The people murmur. Some call for blood, others call for exile, and you step forward, and everything goes quiet. You don't speak right away. You wait. Let them feel the weight of your presence. Then you say, "We don't tear ourselves apart over this." That draws reactions, surprise, confusion, some anger. "They came to break us," you say. "They failed. They'll try again. But if we start turning on each other, we save them the trouble." A pause. Then you add, "Justice will be done, but it will be ours, not theirs." The Jarl studies you, then slowly he nods. "Let it be so." That night you sit at the edge of the village looking out over the forest. She joins you, cloak wrapped tight, Era in her arms. "She has your eyes," she says. "No," you answer. "She has hers." The sky above you is a dark ocean, stars scattered like bones from some ancient feast. You breathe deep. The air is cool and sharp. You think about the man you used to be. The boy who tasted rage and thought it was power. The beast who tore through enemies to feel alive. The dead man who stood before a Valkyrie and was told, not yet. And now, you're a father. You're a protector. You're a man who still feels the rage, but doesn't need it to be whole. Quirky but unsettling historical fact. Some Norse warriors, after years of battle, went into a kind of self-imposed exile, a quiet life far from the sea and sword. They weren't cowards, they weren't broken, they were just done, not because they feared war but because they knew what it cost, and they'd paid enough. You're not there yet, but you see the path, and you're starting to wonder if you were meant to find it all along. In the quiet, Era stirs, she opens her eyes, and for one perfect moment, nothing else exists. Not the wars, not the wounds, just her breath. And yours. Ragnarok comes not with fire or frost, but with whispers. They begin in the woods, passed between hunters too superstitious to say things loud. Shadows flickering in daylight. Trees bleeding sap that smells like rot. Wolves howling at noon, not the moon. One man swears he saw a serpent coiled around a boulder where no serpent should be. When he turned away and looked again, the boulder was gone. Another swears a raven spoke his name. Twice. You'd dismiss it if it weren't for what you've already lived through. The dead gods are stirring. Not in the sky, maybe, but in the soil, in the places your ancestors buried their fears and stories and prayed the earth would keep them quiet. It doesn't help that Ira cries every night at exactly the same time, when the wind shifts and carries with it the scent of something wrong, not smoke, not blood, something older. The Jarl doesn't leave his hall anymore. His daughter tends to him, now with one hand always on her belt, the other never far from Era's cradle. Rask spends his nights walking the perimeter of the village with a torch in one hand and a blade in the other, muttering prayers under his breath that you know he doesn't really believe. You feel it too, not dread, recognition. Like standing on a battlefield and realizing the enemy is your reflection. It starts small. A goat gives birth to a stillborn kid with two heads. Then the sky takes on a strange shade at dusk, more orange than red, but too saturated like it's holding its breath. Then the well runs dry, even though the snowpack hasn't melted yet. The oldest woman in the village sits by the fire and says nothing, just stares into the flames. When you ask what she sees, she says, Fimbulvetter, the great winter, the one that doesn't end, the one that starts it all. Still, you try to hold the pieces together. You and Rask train the young ones, more seriously now, less sparring, more survival. You teach them how to fight in snow, how to make fire in wet wood, how to see beyond what's in front of them, because that's where the real war comes from, not the horizon, but behind your own eyes. One morning a raven lands on your roof. Not unusual, until it speaks, not clearly, just one word. Soon, it flaps away, feathers black as judgment. You gather your weapons. The Jarl calls for you that night. You find him alone, coughing blood into a bowl, hands shaking. He motions you closer. This village, this place. It wasn't meant to last, he croaks. You shake your head. It lasted longer than most. He chuckles, then winces. You see it, don't you? The signs. I see too much, you say quietly. He nods. Then you know what comes next. No, you admit, but I know it's close. He lifts something from under his blanket, a pendant. Old, hammer-shaped, worn down by years of hands and sweat. Thor's, he says, was my father's, before the sea took him, before I thought I'd die with a sword in hand and not a child in mine. You hesitate, then you take it. Not because you believe in Thor, but because you believe in symbols, and symbols are the only thing that can rally people when logic dies screaming. The next day the forest goes silent. No birds, no insects, just stillness. Rask finds you at the river. They're coming, he says. You nod. You don't ask who, you already know. That night you take Era to the high point on the ridge. You carry her in your arms and she stares up at the stars, gurgling softly. The air is too warm for the season. The moon is too close. You whisper to her, if I don't come back, find a way to remember who you are, not what they make you. She reaches for your beard and tugs. You try not to cry. The next morning they arrive. Not an army, not a horde, just a man cloaked in black, face hidden. He walks into the village like he owns it. Everyone watches. No one speaks. You step forward. He stops a few paces from you. You can't see his face, but you feel his eyes. "You've been marked," he says. "Many times," you reply. "You'll have to be more specific." He tilts his head. "You've been dead." "And you came back." "I did." "That means you opened something." "I didn't mean to." "It doesn't matter. Now it's open, and what's behind it is coming." You tighten your grip on your axe. He doesn't flinch. "We're not ready," he says. "Who's we?" He doesn't answer. Instead, he pulls back his hood and reveals a face you've seen before. Yours, almost. An older version, a future you. Scarred differently, eyes colder, jaw clenched. "You're lying," you whisper. He shakes his head. "I tried to fight it. I failed." You don't move. "Tell them," he says. "Ragnarok isn't war. It's remembrance. The world doesn't end because we fight. It ends because we forget why we did it in the first place." Then he vanishes. No smoke, no scream, just gone. You don't sleep that night. You sit by the fire holding Era, staring into the flames. She's quiet. The bear inside you paces, not growling and not ready to attack, just nervous. It's the first time it's ever felt that way. You whisper to the child in your arms, "Whatever this is, we face it together." You kiss her forehead, and the flames flicker. The wind howls, and far off in the woods something howls back. Debatable bit of scholarship. Some argue Ragnarok is metaphor, symbolic of the cycle of death and rebirth. Others think it's a memory, passed down from a real natural disaster or collapse. But a few, very few, suggest it's a personal prophecy. One that comes for each warrior in their own time, in their own way. A reckoning, not for the world, but for you. You wake before dawn, not from a sound, but from absence. No bird song, no rustle of wind against the longhouse walls, not even the creak of Raag sharpening blades in the yard like he always does before sunrise. Just stillness. A dead, wool-thick silence that wraps around your village like frost. You dress quickly, slipping on your cloak, tightening the belt around your waist, checking your axe's edge. The sky is grey but starless. You breathe in and smell the coming storm. Not rain, not snow. Something else. The kind of storm that rearranges legends. She stirs beside you, half asleep, eyes searching. Era breathes steadily in her cradle. You crouch beside them, press your lips to her forehead, then hers, then the infant's soft crown. You don't say anything. Not because there's nothing to say, but because there's too much, and you've never been good at goodbyes. Outside, the village stands ready. Rask meets you at the gate, his beard newly braided, his armour clean for the first time in months. "You feel it too?" he asks. You nod. "They're coming." He cracks his knuckles. "About damn time." You survey the defences. Everyone you've trained is in place. The older ones, the wounded, and the children. Hidden. Somewhere behind stone, guarded by those who've aged out of war but never out of vigilance. You told them to run if things turned. They said no. So now, the whole village is either weapon or shield. You walk the outer ring one last time, and then the drums start. Low. Distant. Like the heartbeat of some ancient beast awakening. They emerge through the mist. Not a warband, but a wall. Dozens. Hundreds. Faces painted with old runes. Eyes glowing from something deeper than madness. They don't march like soldiers. They move like animals. Unhinged. Frenzied. But coordinated somehow. Like a hive with blood in its brain. You recognize the style. The leather armour. The jagged blades. The way they swing their weapons, not to wound, but to destroy. These are berserkers. But not like you. Not like what you became. These are the ones who never stopped raging. Who let the fury consume them so thoroughly they forgot what it was ever for. They are walking reminders of what you could have been, if you hadn't learned to wield the storm instead of becoming its lightning rod. They are not your kin. They are your mirror. The leader steps forward. She wears a bear pelt, yes, but it's blackened with tar and singed at the edges. Her eyes are wild but focused. Her hands are steady. She lifts a sword and points it at your chest. "We have come," she says, voice guttural, "to finish what the gods began." You step forward. "I didn't invite them," you answer, "and I'm not ready to leave." She grins, "Then die twice." The battle begins, not with a charge, not with a horn, but with a scream from a boy in your village who throws his spear too early and shatters the silence like stained glass. It's enough. The berserkers rush. You meet them head on. The first one lunges and your axe splits his stomach open before he can finish a snarl. The second ducks your swing but eats Rask's dagger through the eye. The third, you don't remember the third, just blood and breath and the rhythmic thud of footfalls around you. Your bear wakes, not in rage, but in focus. You fight like you've lived 2 lives already, because you have. The first life made you strong. The second taught you what strength is for. You see Rask take a cut across the chest, deep, dangerous, but he roars and keeps going. The Jarl's daughter lets arrows fly from the longhouse roof, each one aimed like she's in love with every target. Villagers fight like they've always had fangs. This isn't battle, it's remembrance. You turn in time to see 3 berserkers charging the healer's hut. You run, feet tearing mud from the ground, and collide with them like a thunderclap. One goes down under your boot, the next you disarm, twist and break. The third swings wildly. You duck, grab their wrist, and drive your axe into their spine. You don't think. You do, and still they keep coming. Dozens become more. They pour from the trees like ink spilling across a page. You realize mid-swing that this isn't a raid. It's a purge. They want every part of the old world gone. Even the quiet rage, especially that. And you're its last offender. You climb the watchtower, shout orders, redirect defences. You throw a hammer to one warrior, toss a second blade to another. Rask covers the flank, but you see his limp worsening. You leap down, land hard, and help him hold the line. He coughs blood. You sure you're not already in Valhalla? Feels too warm, you grunt. Then something changes. The black pelt leader calls out a word, Skelfer, and suddenly they stop. Every one of them, frozen, breathing hard, eyes locked on her. She steps forward again. We didn't come for you, she says. She points toward the longhouse. We came for what you made. Era, your chest tightens. No, you say. Yes, she counters. No child born of death and rage should live. You grip your axe tighter. Then you'll have to kill me. She raises her arms, and behind her, the berserkers howl. It's not a sound, it's a calling, a storm of voices unified by one purpose, to end your line. But you're not a line. You're a wall, and walls don't fall without taking everything with them. The next few moments are blood and breath. You charge, they meet you, and the final war of your kind begins. Historical side note, there is no record of a last berserker war, not officially. But legends speak of entire villages vanished, of forests soaked in blood that would not grow green again for decades. Some say berserkers turned on their own in the end, those who wanted power versus those who found peace. What happened to those who survived? No one knows. But the stories, they always end with a child. One who carries the memory, one who inherits the quiet, one who remembers what rage should have been. It ends at sunset. Not in a blaze of glory, not in the ringing of swords or the triumphant roar of victory, but in exhaustion. Pure, bone-deep, soul-wrung exhaustion. The kind that clings to you like damp ash, even as the last enemy falls and the air turns still. Even as the sky softens into molten gold and shadows stretch long across the blood-soaked ground. You're on your knees in the middle of the village square, your axe buried in the mud beside you. Your cloak is gone, torn somewhere in the fray. Your arms ache. Your chest burns with every breath, and your legs threaten to collapse beneath you, held upright by stubbornness and muscle memory alone. But you're alive, barely. Smoke rises from the eastern wall, black and thin, curling upward like a whisper. Bodies are everywhere. Berserkers, villagers, strangers who came to kill and were killed in turn. You don't even know which side some of them belong to anymore. That's the thing about war. Eventually, everyone just looks dead. Across the square, Rask limps toward you. His face is smeared with dirt and blood, one arm hanging uselessly at his side, but he's upright, breathing. That counts for something. You still with us? He rasps, sitting beside you with a grunt. You nod. Mostly, he spits into the mud. Never thought I'd outlive a war like that. You glance sideways. You didn't. He smirks. Fair. The Jarl's daughter finds you both a few moments later. She's barefoot, still in her leathers, streaked with sweat and soot, a short sword dangling from one hand like it's part of her arm now. She doesn't speak. She just sits beside you and leans her head on your shoulder. Is she safe, you ask? She nods. With the elders? Unharmed. You let yourself breathe. A real breath. Not the shallow, panicked gasps of survival, but one from the chest. Slow. Full. Then you look out at what's left of your home. It's ruined, but not destroyed. The longhouse still stands, charred but upright. The healer's hut smoulders but can be saved. The well's been hit, but water still seeps from the earth. And the people? Fewer, yes. Wounded, certainly, but alive. And already, even now, you see them beginning to move. Picking up the fallen, tending the fires, carrying wood, building. Again. The black pelt leader is dead. You saw to that yourself. She came at you like a storm, shrieking her hatred, swinging a blade that felt older than language. You didn't rage. You didn't scream. You just watched. Waited. Moved when you needed to. And when the time came, you buried your axe in her chest like it was a promise finally kept. The moment she fell, the others faltered, and that's when the tide turned. Not with strength, but with focus. Because you were never the strongest berserker. You were just the one who remembered who you were. In the fading light, the children begin gathering. Some carry water, some carry food. Others just watch you with wide eyes, unsure whether to be afraid or amazed. Era is passed gently from hand to hand until she reaches yours. She's quiet, awake, and staring up at you like she knows what you've done. Like she saw it all. You hold her close. The Jarl's daughter places a hand on your leg. It's over. You shake your head. No, it's just begun. Because now comes the part that truly terrifies you. Peace. You've fought wars. You've faced monsters. You've looked a Valkyrie in the eye and walked back from death with her voice in your chest. But building something that lasts, teaching your child to live in a world not shaped by fear, but by choice, that's harder than any blade. Still, you start. You bury the dead. You burn what must be burned. You plant trees where blood was spilled. You sharpen your tools for wood, not war. And each night when the fire dims and the wind hums low, you hold Era and whisper old stories, not of gods, not of glory, but of what came after, of why it mattered, of how it changed you. The rage still lives in you, but now it's like a fire pit in winter, contained, useful, lit only when needed, and even then, never fed without purpose. People come from neighbouring villages. Some bring gifts, others bring questions, a few bring swords. You welcome all of them. You teach, you listen, you lead, reluctantly but well. Even the Jarl, before he finally passes in the spring, takes your hand and says, "I was wrong about you." You say, "I was too," and you mean it. Strange historical footnote. Historians debate whether the berserkers ever truly disappeared, or if they simply evolved. Some believe their bloodlines scattered across the north, their stories diluted into superstition. Others believe they chose to vanish, blending into villages, choosing families over fire, memory over myth. Some even say they became kings, quiet ones. As for you, you never claim a crown, you never carve your saga into stone. But when Era takes her first steps, when she says her first word, light, you realize your legacy doesn't need runes. It's walking. The village eventually forgets the war, not entirely, but enough. Seasons pass, trees grow where battle once roared, new homes rise, new names are given, and the word berserker starts to sound less like a warning, more like a bedtime story. You still train, still guard, but mostly you watch, and when the wind shifts and the bear inside you stirs, you smile. Not tonight, you say. Not anymore, because you didn't survive to keep fighting. You survived to remember why you fought. You survived to end it. At sunset, years from now, Era stands beside you, taller now, strong. Her bow slung across her back, her hair tied with the leather. She squints at the horizon and says, "Tell me again about the last Berserker war." And you do. You tell her everything, because stories keep us human, and this one is yours. And so, at the edge of the world where the fjord kisses the sea, you finally let go. Not of everything, no, not of your strength, or the lessons carved into your bones, but of the need to always be something. A warrior, a threat, a guardian. You've lived all those lives. You've worn each role like a second skin, shedding them when the time came. Now, there's nothing left to become, just someone to be. The world didn't end with Ragnarok. Not in fire, not in frost. It ended in the quiet, when you realized the gods weren't waiting for you at the gates of Valhalla. They were watching from the cradle, listening from the hearth, resting inside the hand of a child who laughs without knowing why. Era grows, and every season brings something new. A question you can't answer. a truth you never considered, a fire that doesn't destroy, but warms. You tell her your stories, not as warnings, not as glory tales, but as footprints in snow, markers of where you were, so she can decide where she wants to go. Someday she'll leave, and you won't stop her. You'll stand at the edge of the village, watching her vanish into the trees bow across her back, heart unburdened by rage, and you'll smile, not because you're at peace, but because you made peace. It's a strange thing for a berserker to be remembered not for the blood spilled, but for the child who lived. But that's the legacy you chose, not as a warning, as a beginning. So, if you made it this far, still awake, still breathing, maybe you were meant to hear this story, to carry it, to shape your own. Sleep well, warrior, but the fire's low, the night is kind.